Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I am Jared. I am here with Brit. What's up, Brit?
Hello, hello.
And today, oh boy, do we have something very interesting for you guys. So what Brit and I have been working on, and we did promote this slightly in an episode, but so Brit and I have made our own DC Multiverse now. And yes, it is an actual multiverse. Time for peak content. Why, thank you, Cameron. So here's what we did. So as you guys know, Brit and I are working on a fan-made story called Shelter from the Storm. But here's the way Brit and I work. All of a sudden, I'll DM her and I'll go, I have an idea for this. I have an idea for this. I have an idea for this. And she'll go, okay, I guess we're making another story. And I'm like, yes. Okay. So little did we know, all of this would go into, we have made an entire multiverse worth of stories. And we're going to highlight it for you guys today. Now, first off, we'll talk about this later on the show, but this is the 75th episode of the show. Thank you so much for watching. Brit and I really appreciate it.
Yes, we do.
So we're going to start. So, Brit, here's one of the special things I told you I found. I went through our DM history and found the first time we thought of the idea for the Shelterverse. So what we have here, these are the DMs that Brit and I had. So the way the Shelterverse came about is Brit and I were DMing one day, and we were talking about, okay, so if Clark and Diana are meant to be together, why doesn't it happen like in the thing? What would stop them from getting together? Brit said because Clark thinks that like he's not good enough for Diana, and because like his humble background and such. So I asked her, that makes sense. Let's say you were writing a DC and you could do whatever you wanted. How would you have Clark realize that he's worthy of her? So she says 2 ways. Diana is in need of serious comfort. He never seen her so down before, and he knows and is determined to be the only one to help and understand her. He feels guilty because Diana is always including him, and no one actually makes sure she is okay. Or 2, a major scare of almost losing her, like the image above. So what I literally did is, hey, what's up, Garrett? So I said, what if the island is wiped out? So right here. So it started off as a 1-shot / 2-chapter story.
Yes.
And as things normally go when it comes to comes to Brit and I's collabs, things start small and then like explode like a nuclear bomb.
Yeah. Very ambitious idea to destroy Themyscira.
Well, because again, it's like, how do we make it so like she's like she's at the point where she's not herself, but he is going to be there for her to like help her through this. So that's kind of where this started. And so and the multiverse really came up with the reason why we centered around this is because all of the other stories that you're going to hear about tonight, all of which fit within this central theme that is present in this story, and which is why Earth Zero starts off with this one. But the idea, so Brett, we started this in 2023. We're going on 2 years, by the way. What's that like?
Okay, so first off, with this verse, it's like you said, it is. It started off as a 1-shot, then a 2-parter, and just all these, ideas of pretty much putting their history, together within the comics, and how DC has failed to really even scratch the surface of this pairing. So what we wanted to do is basically rewrite everything. I don't think we even thought to do sacrifice yet. I think it was more so kind of like just that idea of post-crisis, that dynamic. But when you go back to post-crisis especially, and you see these stories, they have great ideas, but the execution falls vastly short.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, a lot of it. So what you'll notice, there's a central theme with the Shelterverse. It's us fixing DC's mistakes.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why there's so many stories. So let's start with Earth Zero. So Earth Zero is the story where everything centers around it. It's called Shelter from the Storm. The premise behind this, an all-out assault against the Justice League and the world by Lord Havoc, leads to the devastating destruction of Wonder Woman's home island of Themyscira, and Wonder Woman making a decision that will change the world's view of not only her, but the Justice League forever. Will the world's greatest heroine spiral down the dark path? Or can Superman be her shelter through this dangerous storm of turmoil, heartbreak, betrayal, regret, and rage? So, by the way, Ray says, Clovis can have post-crisis rebirth. I just want one universe with SuperWonder being a thing. Well, you got one. It's called the Shelterverse. So, what happened is, when I was thinking through this, I was like, because I was thinking, what would be a way, because the idea of, the premise of the story is Wonder Woman kills Maxwell Lord because he's involved in this, and she isolates herself because the world basically rejects her. That's the idea there. Now, the first way we fix this is not everyone like immediately goes, oh, screw you, Wonder Woman, particularly Superman. And that's always something that really bothered me about the aftermath of Sacrifice. Because here's the thing, Superman and Batman specifically would not be as like, oh, screw you, Wonder Woman, because A, Batman has contingency plans literally for this exact scenario. And Superman would trust who's supposed to be his best friend to do this. So it never made sense that like Superman was like, I don't know who you are anymore. And Batman's like, get out. It never made any remote sense to me.
Right. And we alluded to this, last week about, Sacrifice. And yeah, I'm still questioning just that whole like thought process of that story, because as we, talked about it throughout decades or whatever, even in the movie or movies, Batman and Superman has killed before. So why are they acting holier than thou towards Diana?
And post-crisis fans, Superman is killed in post-crisis.
Right. So, and you question, like, it's right there unfolding, in front of his eyes, basically, slit neck and all. But Diana saved Clark. So it's kind of like, why are you treating her as she's the villain?
Exactly.
I can understand if you're surprised about it, that you are distraught, that it's a decision that she made, on behalf of him, and maybe that could have been something explored. It's kind of like he maybe felt guilty about it, that she had to make that decision. That would have been something. But to make her feel like what she did was worse than what Lord was going to do is kind of like, okay, that's too much.
Yeah, exactly. So that was my thinking. And again, a lot of this is undoing the damage that DC did. So what we thought of is that, so Superman is on her side, because particularly in this universe, the dynamics are, they've been in love for 10 years, but they haven't done anything about that. So we're basically playing off they love each other, but duty or something keeps them apart. So that's part of why, like, Superman is like, what are you guys doing? So I'm not going to spoil the entire story for you guys, but through a journey, she recovers. So, like any great story, it's got to have sequels. So this is when the universe really exploded. And I remember I sent these to Brit rapid fire, and she was like, oh my God. So the second one, I'm going to ask you guys a question. What if Krypton had never exploded? What if what they thought was happening is that Krypton itself was entering the Phantom Zone? So That's where story 2 comes in. So, spoiler alert, they end Superman and Wonder Woman end up together. I think that's pretty obvious if we're writing the story. So, they're married, have a couple of kids. Then Krypton all of a sudden shows up. And so what Brit and I try to do is when we do like the sequels to Shelter, one story is going to be Wonder Woman focused. Obviously, Shelter from the Storm is Wonder Woman focused. Story 2 is Superman focused because it involves Krypton. And what we liked about this is that this gives us an opportunity for Diana to actually meet Cal's family and like interact with them. Particularly, we're using the new 52E versions where like Lara is a warrior or like a general, and that kind of works with her like relating to Diana. Plus, you get to see like the elves see the positive effect that that decision to send their son to Earth has had.
Yes.
And we play off of a few things from Man of Steel, for those of you that don't know. Story 3. By the way, so I did give all these names, by the way, Brit. So story 2 is called Home and War. Story 3 is Memories of Love. All right.
Okay, well, it's toggling between our, new story of
we'll get to that.
This was my first favorite.
Yeah, so the caption: after a battle against Brainiac, Diana loses the memory of her life in man's world. Can she ever regain them? And what does this mean for her and Cal? So what this basically does, this means that Superman has to make Wonder Woman fall in love with him all over again.
Which is so heartbreaking.
Mind you, Wonder Woman has kids in this universe.
Yeah, so it's a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah, so with this, you kind of see like, so the objective of the story is they have to get the lasso because as we see the universe, as we've seen in DC lore, the lasso can restore people's memories. So that's the objective. I'm not going to like get into where the lasso goes because that's spoilers, but we see Diana like readjust to man's world. And the reason why we did the memory wipe is because we're trying to kind of see that like some things aren't based on memory. Some things just feel right.
Exactly. And I love to explore Clark and Diana's relationship from a spiritual sense, and I believe it was a story called, it involved the Spectre, but it was Clark and Diana being attacked, the Justice League, and Diana says, she wraps a lasso around Clark and she says, let your soul intertwine with mine and let us be as one. So that's basically the inspiration, for this story, is that they are spiritually connected, whether it is the mind is lost.
Exactly. So, and essentially what this does, it's a lot of Diana also seeing it's so by like her memories of man's world from before she leaves the island to where the story picks up. She has no memory of that time. So essentially she resets to younger Diana. Obviously, mentally, physically, obviously she's still like the same age. And what that does is you also get to see, because one of the things that like Diana always wanted to do, but by the way, Randy says, it seems like people forget that Batman was in a bad spot prior to the 80s reboot. New 52 should have done for Superman with post-crisis different Batman. It did. So what Diana is allowed to see is, because one of the things that Diana's always wondered at this point in her life before she left is, because part of the reason why Diana leaves because she's not happy on Themyscira. She's curious. She wants to see what the world's like. And as she discovers, as she travels, she eventually is like, oh my gosh, I have this life. I'm married to a man. I have 2 kids. I'm this superhero. And I'm happy. Oh, and there's Barry Allen. He says, ever get get at the chance, I'll definitely make it canon. And every continuity, they eventually get together. That is kind of canon, though, anyway. But anyway, Brit. So, tell me what do you like about story 3?
Okay, so again, it is the falling in love all over again, and just having that they do have an established life already, but it's getting back to it, and just everything that we've implemented within the story of the drama, kind of taking digs at the traditional relationships, um, of the expectations, then also with the celebrity vibe of them, as the ambassador, as the reporter, how does the world see them? And then when you have Diana in this point of her life of in the spotlight, something happens to her, and you have just the world just in your business. So she needs that sense of peace again and putting the pieces back together. And who is that that can help her is the one,
Mm-hmm.
person. It's not just because he's a man or that she is in love with him. It's just that person though, and her best friend. She needs her best friend back to help her put the pieces together. So
Exactly.
it's
But
not it's not so much as just the romantic part of their relationship. It is always going to reaffirm their friendship as well.
exactly. Julian adds, I remember this one argument against Superman and Wonder Woman. The person said that it always is the man in these types of relationships that are stronger, not the woman. Then you clearly haven't read Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman's a badass.
Right. I mean, their relationship is founded on equality. And even though DC does, want Superman to be the strongest, Diana is up there. I mean, we saw in Absolute Power how Superman was at 100% of strength, but I think Diana was like, I think it had her at like 97. It's like, come on, she could have had those 3 points. You know, that is what DC does. Um, because it's male dominated, but in actuality, they are of equals.
Yeah, if anything, a little more, because Diana has a little bit more of the warrior training as opposed to Clark. So, then we get to story 4. Stop me if this sounds familiar. The world suddenly turns against the metahumans, rewriting Absolute Power and Tom King's Wonder Woman versus Sovereign. Yes, so we are going to fix the Absolute Power event and the King run, because here's the thing. Those stories don't make sense for a lot of reasons. Number one, why the world all of a sudden turns against the superheroes, even though the superheroes have saved the world so many times. I'm sorry, the whole the news thing doesn't work in this universe. So I'm like, why are you? This doesn't work. What are you doing? And the Sovereign is not an actual villain in this storyline. I believe Brit and I decided Sovereign's not a character. Because here's the thing. Sovereign doesn't make sense as a character, period, because, okay, there's the secret, like, man. So, and Brit, you said it in the chat last night. If the Sovereign is supposed to be like the King of America, A, Amanda Waller should be his subordinate, and B, Amanda Waller should know about him.
Exactly. I mean, this whole secret society underground ruler is just so, I don't know, it just sounds just so off base.
Once again, it sounds like someone would rather be writing Batman.
Right. That honestly, now that you said that, the Sovereign does sound like a Batman villain.
He's literally rehashing the Court of Owls.
Oh wait, yeah, that's right.
He literally, you know what's getting funny? Legit, that just hit me right now. This is literally a rip-off Court of Owls.
I mean,
much lazier than Scott Snyder.
I mean, what hasn't Tom King ripped off?
Oh yeah, exactly. Always remember that he got the job at DC by his own admission because his mom's an executive at Warner Brothers. So just Remember that, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, exactly. Agreed, Jared. Mutants and humans are two different things. They should never be equal. Yeah, exactly. Because that when you have like characters that have saved the world for the see, this is the absolute power is the type of story that would work for the X-Men because the world turns against them on a dime all the time. But with the Justice League, like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, I'm pretty sure that like that wouldn't work in the rules of this universe. And trying to do a like, oh my gosh, fake news story would work if we didn't literally just have a crisis. I'm sorry, it literally makes zero sense.
Right. I mean, what in DC right now does make sense.
I know. That's actually a good point, by the way.
I mean, and the more that we built this multiverse, and just going through these stories, whether we read the synopsis or we actually have read the story, it's kind of like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Why is this praised so much and it's overhyped? And then it's kind of like, okay, you're missing a lot of detail within the story just to get to an ending. And is that ending actually satisfying? Or are the characters, like with Tom King especially, because he has this certain plot that he wants to, enforce, he uses these characters as chess pieces, but they don't necessarily fit, within the plot. And that's pretty much the problem with his Wonder Woman run. Is this story
there are a
is
lot
not,
of problems with that Wonder Woman.
Yeah, but it's not the story for Diana. It is a story for Batman, or
even Superman. I think the Sovereign could work because of the whole truth, justice, American way thing.
Even that, but you know what? The way Tom King writes, Clark would probably end up like shaking hands with the Sovereign. So
it's good to meet you, sir. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, yeah, but I'm saying, here's the thing, and this is what I told Legion last night. By the way, so you know what's hilarious? Legit, I can look to any other person that praises the Tom King Wonder Woman run, and I just ask them, how much Wonder Woman have you read? And then people say, 100% of the time, not that much. And I'm like, that explains it. Because here's the thing. This could be a decent story for a different character, not Wonder Woman. By the way, Barry Allen says, sounds like Tom King would have had more fun doing a Superman Wonder Woman book than a Wonder Woman book specifically. I mean, his mall issue was Chef's Kiss for me. Don't be so sure. I mean, let me put it this way. Was it the least offensive issue? Yes. Was it the deep dive that he promised it would be? Hell no. Man, Tom King keeps making all these promises and never fulfilling them.
Right. It's a lot of talking heads, and I would say that it's not that he wanted to write Superman and Wonder Woman. That was definitely not what he wanted to do. Especially with calling, the issue the Batman who has everything. I mean, you're trying to be like Alan Moore. So
and Alan Moore doesn't even want to be Alan Moore anymore.
Right. And it really, again, he didn't do the deep dive within Diana's perspective of her relationship with Clark and their friendship. He really, not even surface level, I don't even know what that was, but he tried to force the Trinity more than Clark and Diana's, individual relationship, which is kind of unfair because in his Batman run, he had the super friends with Bruce, Selena, Clark, and Lois, and how he sort of did do that deep dive with Clark and Bruce, as bros or whatever.
Yeah.
And then with Wonder Woman, of course,
Here's
plagiarized.
the difference, Brit. Here's the difference. He wanted to write Batman. Yes,
Right.
I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. He never wanted to write Wonder Woman. He's just doing it because it's an easy gig where he can just write whatever the hell he wants and no one will get pissed off. Well, guess what? I got people pissed off about his run. That's my claim to fame. But anyway, Britt, continue.
And you have the plagiarized Immortal Beloved,
Mm-hmm.
where it, you know, for him to say that he didn't write that, I mean, he didn't read it and didn't know about it, kind of like
Then how does it follow legit? It's even the
the exact
plot where, like, oh my gosh, another direction. Yes, exactly, Skullface. DC doesn't care who writes Wonder Woman. Well, we're going to make them care. So anyway, but it's like, if you didn't read it, why is the plot, like, legit that? Oh, someone shows up and says, hey, you got to come to this other dimension and fight this war. Okay. And then they go there. They have a tease of a kiss, and then they reject because the man has feelings for another person. That is like plot beat by plot beat, and they're literally in there for like years.
right.
Dude, don't tell me you didn't read that book and then legit do the actual book.
Yeah. So, and the reason why he even had that issue was because the artist didn't want to draw Hal Jordan. That it was supposed to be like a bachelorette type, I mean, not bachelor party for Bruce, of course, with Hal Jordan. And she didn't want to draw that. So she wanted to draw Wonder Woman. So they switched the story. Um, of course, I guess he thought that no one would know, and it was very much a last minute thing. But for you to have to plagiarize a story, it still shows that there is no relationship with Bruce and Diana either as friends or whatever you wanted to show with that. Then again, with the mall issue, you refuse to acknowledge Clark and Diana's actual friendship, even if you don't want to play into that, kind of like how Conrad did. They still have that friendship, but there's an intimacy to it. That's something that obviously Tom King did not want to play into because he has his, bias with the traditional relationships. But I mean, if you're not going to play into their friendship with that sort of connection, then just don't write it, and
Exactly.
and
But
don't.
then again, Tom King is incapable of not of admitting he can't write something. We're talking about the person that brags about his deep comic knowledge, except for about Wonder Woman.
Right.
But anyway, so actually, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna go on with the story for here. Also, with the just with the Sovereign story period, and if
Mm-hmm.
you want to have the Sovereign versus Wonder Woman or America versus Wonder Woman, I mean, why we still have not seen why she being the target, the Amazons being the target. Um,
It's
you
because
know,
he's trying to make a veiled immigration like allegory.
I mean, if you're going to do that, you might as well do all, metahumans, and especially, yeah, it would be with Superman because I think actually, um, Philip Johnson, he was trying to do that within his uh, action run, and it was very surface level with that. You had Metropolis
Surface
people.
level? Wow. By the way, Jid says, and I was gonna say, Amazons versus Americans has been done over and over and over again. You could almost
That's true.
say some Amazons were attacking.
Quiet. Do not do
Yeah.
that. Do not do that. But yeah, that sort of story, I mean, unless you are really just invested in doing the deep dive, which of course they are not, they would rather do the bottle cap, pinky toe. Um, and and it's just if you aren't going to make an impact on that type of storyline, don't even try it. And with this storyline, honestly, Tom King has lost his own plot because you've geared from the Amazons being imprisoned, killed, and well, first you had an Amazon, a runaway Amazon. That's pretty much the catalyst of all this that happened. Then you have the Amazons who were living in man's world for all this time, established with a family and everything like that, and they've been hunted down. Then you have now Steve killed and Diana with a Cabbage Patch baby. I mean,
God damn it, Cabbage Patch Baby. I love that. I love the way you phrase things, Brit.
thank you. Yeah, so all of this is going on, and it's just point by point without the actual investment in it. I mean, Steve, we do not care about Steve. I'm sorry. I can't care about,
So do most of the Wonder Woman fans.
right?
And by the way, Tom King, I know that was part of like the motivation behind your run, but you literally did the opposite.
Right. I mean, who says that, he criticizes Wonder Woman past runs for being more focused on her villains or the love interest, which is sort of like not true. But you
It's
double
true in his
down.
head. Remember, this is the guy who manufactured a rivalry between him and George Perez.
That's true. Yeah, so and within that, the run, well, we'll say this later when we are reviewing the Wonder Woman preview, but it does feel like that he is making up these problems for Wonder Woman, but he's doubling down on those problems,
In
especially
the
with the
most
emphasis on Steve.
lazy, in the most lazy ass way. So, by the way, speaking of not being lazy, we have story 5. Now, this is something very cool. So, story 5 is Cal and Diana's youngest child sets out on an adventure back in time to witness their love story. All I'm gonna say, there are Easter eggs / allusions to this throughout all of the different stories.
Yes.
So, an eagle-eyed reader maybe we'll be able to like see hints of this later on. I don't know, but that's going to be kind of cool to see like the stories, but from the perspective of their daughter or kid. Or did we decide on if it's a daughter? I think we did.
Daughter, yes.
Yeah, it's a daughter. That's going to be kind of cool because you could see, and maybe the kid will influence some events. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Now we get to Brit's, I don't know, favorite or second favorite story.
It is my favorite because we talk about it like 9,000 every day. So
All right.
yeah, it's definitely my favorite.
Earth 1. Olympia. So this Earth, on this Earth, Cal and Diana's newborn child is taken and presumed deceased. They must try to pick up the pieces of their shattered hearts for the sake of the relationship with their second born. So what inspired this partly was the Tomasi run where he put so much like animosity and then eventually kind of broke them up in there. So premise of this, Diana gives birth to their first child, a daughter, and the daughter is killed or doesn't make it. I use air quotes for a very specific reason. And Clark and Diana break up. I use air quotes for a very specific reason with this one, for a lot of different reasons. And by the way, so this is a design, by the way, for New 52 Donna Troy by Brett Booth, back when she is ideated to be the future daughter of Superman and Wonder Woman. So I always felt that was kind of cool. But it's the idea where she's not dead, spoiler alert, and presume kind of did that, and it's also like Clark and Diana are like held together by spit and glue and their son, and then they discover yes, exactly, Cameron, that was going to be Donna. So they discover that, oh my gosh, our daughter's still alive, and let me put it this way. This is also an homage to that dope-ass scene from Superman Wonder Woman when Clark bodies Apollo and goes, "You don't know that much about me." I may have come up with the story just so I could write that moment.
Yes, it does involve the gods.
It became a running joke that I have so many different characters just kick Apollo's ass.
Yes, it does involve the gods, specifically Apollo, for Clark to whoop his ass, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the idea that this is still going on the theme that they love each other and they're together, but they're not together, if that makes sense. So they tell people they are together, but it's kind of like a small separation, if you will. And that's the thing. By the way, also, there will be other character stories that we're going to be doing. Like on Earth Zero, we're going to have Green Lantern, Batman, Aquaman. There's going to be tons of other stories in there. So be on the lookout for that. But anyway, so for this, it's the idea of like, it's the idea, because I may be a sap, but I've seen movies where like divorce/not divorced parents are brought back together by their children. So I thought, oh, you know what? This would be kind of cool. And by the way, so this idea was ideated with a simple premise, as most stories that we do. I was watching the cutscenes for God of War, the newer one, and I was like, what if Diana had to travel to hell to save Cal? She had her son. So then one day, because Brit and I talk for like hours after each recording or live stream we do, so I just randomly put out there, what if she's being hunted by someone and then it's revealed that this is a certain individual that's very close? Can I say it?
Yes.
So I said, what if this cloak figure is following them and then it's later revealed to be her daughter? So from this massive story came out. And yeah, this and the Shelter from the Storm are neck and neck for the main story that we cover. And by the way, what's up, Josh Jones, who says the amount of start and stops DC has done with Clark and Diana should be a documentary at this point. I could do that as a Comics League thing. DC has already made the pairing unforgettable for fans through their own doing. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so Brit, what do you like about Earth 1?
Okay, so first, again, we are breaking them up, but at the same time, it isn't a contrived reason. It is something that is very, tragic, but at the same time, again, it's all about their spiritual bond and how even though they go through the storm, they still are each other's shelter, and they still have that love, and especially for their second born, it's kind of like, you see a lot of homes that are broken and dysfunctional, you know, but with them, they can get through it. They can teeter on that edge of completely giving up, but they know that they have a lot of history, and that's something that they don't want to just toss out. And then also with Olympia, it's like they have that connection that she's presumed dead, of course, but at the same time, they know in their hearts that there was something, a little bit off about that tragic day that they lost her. So that is something that in the back of their minds, they feel like, okay, one day she might come back to us. And that's also something that's keeping them together.
Exactly. And yes, QT, a lot of other characters are going to get involved. So, Barry, real quick, I want to bring this up. So, for the Shelterverse, the reason why it's called that and Shelter from the Storm, that's a reference to when Superman and Wonder Woman by Charles Soule, as most things we reference are, Diana says we are each other's shelter from the storm. That's where we came up with the idea for that. And it's very interesting doing this type of story because obviously I like the Greek gods and I like Superman, Wonder Woman and stuff. And it's kind of an interesting mix here. And so in terms of this, so I know you guys are wondering, is she going to be like Lara from Dark Knight Returns and all that stuff? Not really, because she still ends up being a good person. And okay, I'm going to tell you this. This is a dig at Tom King. So you may be wondering, what's her code name? So instead of Trinity, because that's stupid, we call her Unity. Because not only did she symbolically bring her parents back together, but she represents, as SuperWonder represents, the like coming together of two peoples.
Right.
So yes, I had to do that because I'm sorry, Trinity for a name for a character is stupid. Whoever came up with that's probably Tom King is lazy as hell. So
And also,
yeah, go ahead.
you're referencing the Trinity. Like, there's no way you can market that without thinking, oh, she has some connection to Superman and Batman as well. Even though you can say the daughter of Wonder Woman all day long, but you will think of the Trinity as Superman and Batman. And that's just not good if you want Wonder Woman to be established, on her own. You don't have Superman and Batman referencing Wonder Woman, in any of their books. I mean, they just recently in the Superman book, you have with the whole Doomsday storyline sending out the heavy hitters, and Diana is nowhere to be found. Even at the beginning, when Clark was talking about who he hears, Diana wasn't mentioned. Then Batman, never, Wonder Woman is never mentioned in the Batman book. So, why is it always her book that Superman and Batman has to be in?
Exactly. And Randy says, do you like taking shots at Tom King more than Lois? More or Lois? Both. Both bring me such joy. Oh, I can't even tell. Oh, there's gonna be lots of shots at Lois. There's gonna be a full-on broadside with a shotgun with Lois. In other words, that's how many shots I'm taking at Lois. And a lot of stuff that DC has made and screwed up. So, Earth 2. This one is something that no one's going to see coming. I was playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey one day, and there's a mission where you go to a gladiatorial pit, and you can fight in that. And obviously, I have the Wonder Woman armor, as anyone that has watched my playthrough of it. So I figured, what if Superman and Wonder Woman were gladiators? So here's the premise of this. Zod rules Krypton. Krypton did not explode. And he rules Krypton and Earth. So the Kryptonians invaded and took over Earth, kind of like the new Krypton arc for Superman. And all the metahumans are his gladiators that he just watches for amusement. I may have also been inspired by the movie Gladiator. I can neither confirm nor deny that. So he shows up, and the Amazons are the most powerful kingdom on Earth. And he shows up and wants to tribute, in other words. So what he was considering was a political marriage with Princess Diana. Diana took offense to that, and when Zod tried to grab her arm, Diana slaps him. And she is imprisoned and thrown to the gladiatorial pits, where she is destined to fight until she dies. Now, Brit had the fantastic idea. So, when Marston was coming up with the name for Wonder Woman, her original name was Suprema the Wonder Woman. So when I was coming up with the idea, when I was thinking of ideas for what Diana's gladiatorial stage name should be, she thought, Suprema. By the way, tell us again how we don't read comics. So you may be wondering, how does Superman get in there? Well, it's one of those stories like from that movie, The Eagle. Clark shows up, sees Diana fight, is instantly smitten with her, and goes to visit her in the gladiator hovel, if you will, and kind of bonds with her. And then when Zod is talking about taking other things from Diana, if you catch my drift, Cal punches him, and he is thrown into the gladiatorial pits, and Diana has to teach him how to fight. And but real quick, this takes a Spartacus like vibe, because I had also just seen the show Spartacus. And this is me just like, oh my gosh, we could totally use that. So they recruit the other superheroes, the other metahumans like Green Lantern, Cyborg, Martian Manhunter, and have to lead a rebellion against Zod. That's the story. Brit, go ahead.
Oh, and there's also the fact that Diana is teaching Cal how to fight. That goes back to Power Couple when Diana is saying how strong Clark is, but he doesn't know how to fight. He doesn't know how to be strategic, and really hone in his strength to not so much as rely on it. Like he has to know how to survive in battle. So that is something that honestly, if we also are inspired by War World with that costume, but it's the fact that Diana should have been in that story. Like,
Yeah, I know, right?
yeah, it
But then again, she was dead because of like death metal and 5G. But still, that would have been if there's any other character that Clark should have brought with him instead of the Authority, it's Wonder Woman.
I mean, I get what Superman writers try to do. They want to, have the B, C, all the way through Z-lister type heroes, so Superman can be the strongest of them all. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of lame to me. When
Mm-hmm.
you have Superman with, other heavy hitters, and they all are showing their equalness, but also is showing how they are struggling with the fight. It's kind of like that is where the stakes come from and how high the stakes are. But when you have Superman as the only one that's kind of like in the battle and everyone else is kind of, basically very below, I don't know. The stakes aren't high to me there because it feels contrived. So with this story, again, a rewrite of War World and showing, this time how Diana trains Clark.
And really, what it is that where Diana is when Clark joins her as a gladiator, she is like given up. Like she is just living from battle to battle. Yes, essentially QT, it's Planet Hulk. Because Brit, this kind of happened to Hulk and Marvel. I'll explain that in a second. But the idea is that Diana is like practically given up. She's like hardened by battle. And in the same way that she hardens Clark for combat, he softens her to bring more of the woman out. By the way, Darius says, I like this idea from both of you. It sounds like it has elements from John Carter of Mars also, who was an inspiration for Superman as well. Darius, now that I think about it, yeah, you are right. It is kind of John Carter-y, and that's kind of what War World Saga kind of was. But yeah, essentially it's and all of our stories have this essential concept of Superman liberating an oppressed people. And that's kind of because, again, that's what Superman used to be. In fact, in the trade that they did for DC Finest for Superman, it says champion of the oppressed. So I'm like, oh, okay. And that's the thing that Brit and I like to do. We like to bring in like as much of the classic basis around these characters as much as possible.
But we don't read.
Yeah, exactly. Because we definitely don't read comics. So Brit, read about Planet Hulk. So obviously you know who the Hulk is, right?
Yes.
So there's this group in Marvel called the Illuminati. In the comics, it's not the group made up from the Doctor Strange movie. In the comics, it's Iron Man, Mr. Fantastic, Professor X, Black Bolt, and it's basically all the representatives from the different corners of Marvel. So what they did is since the Hulk was too much of a wild card, they wanted to shoot him into space and shoot him to like a deserted planet where he could just smash all he wants and not harm anyone. So Hulk found out about this, and as the ship is taking off, he punches stuff and causes the ship to go off course. Goes to a wormhole, crash lands on a planet called Sakaar, and Hulk is captured and turned into a gladiator. It's literally this, except the third Thor movie butchered this storyline. Like, butchered it to the point where, again, the director bragged about not knowing who Thor is. Isn't that very interesting, Brit? By the way, did you know that with Marvel Studios, Brit, it's considered a red flag at Marvel Studios if you know the comics?
What?
At Marvel Studios, they will not hire you if you're a comic book fan because they want outside perspectives.
No. Don't do that.
That is legit. It's not like it's in some internal documents. They themselves said it.
That is awful.
In other words, I can't put on my resume if I apply for Marvel Studios. Oh, I have like all these years of comic book knowledge because they will not hire someone that knows the characters, and they wonder why their movie quality has gone down, except for Deadpool and Wolverine.
I mean, that is. They are taking that overqualified way too seriously.
I know, right? I know. All right, Randy says, take notes. This is called thinking outside the box. I know. All these would be great Black Label / Elseworld books if DC actually had the balls. Okay. This next story. Brit and I did an entire episode dedicated to this universe. It is one of the worst DC storylines of all time. One of the most contrived storylines of all time. It's not Amazon's attack, Brit. It's although I could have just done an entire Earth just on that, but yeah, maybe if I wanted to scare Brit, or I could have Earth L, where every character is a variation of Lois Lane. Anyway,
jeez,
I know, right? I heard the shake in your voice, but see you, Garatina. So remember, the most contrived storyline ever, and there's a reason why this is designated Earth 3. Brit and I are going to rewrite Injustice. Because here's the thing. When you look at Injustice, the amount of threads, this is like a sweater that was netted by a blind person. Like, there is so many loose threads that if you tangle one of them, the entire story falls apart. So, here's the part that particularly pissed me off. So, Injustice won the game. They didn't really play into the whole Wonder Woman being evil thing, kind of. Injustice 2, they made it and basically implied that Diana corrupted Clark. And they did kind of the same thing in the comics. So in the comics, you may be wondering, how did Diana get to this point? So they make it so Diana had trouble controlling her powers. Steve Trevor crash lands, brings her to Man's World. For some reason, she doesn't take the lasso of truth. Well, actually, there is a reason for that. It's called plot. But so Steve kills an Amazon because they go back to the island to get the lasso. And Diana finds out about this. Turns out he's a member of the German army in World War II. I'm trying to I don't know if I could say a specific word, so I have to say it that way, but you guys know what I'm saying. And she strangles him. That's their way of explaining why Diana hates men in Injustice, in the Injustice universe, except they leave out the fact that she served with people. She's in the JSA and the JLA, literally, in her words, the best men she's ever known. So this doesn't make sense. And it turns Diana into a temptress. So what Brit and I were like, how do we do this? All sorts of character assassination against Superman. So here's the thing. The only thing from Injustice that happens in this storyline is the Joker's killed. That's it. He doesn't kill Jean. He doesn't kill Ollie, because at that point, he's pretty irredeemable. The purpose of this is to show what should have happened with Diana. Now, you may be wondering, Clark, what happened with, what about evil Diana? How do you retcon that out? Brit, may I reveal to the people how we retcon her out?
Yes, you may.
That ain't Diana. That's Cersei, disguised as Diana. Trying to, subjugate man's world. Turns out she captured Diana, switched with her. Then this Diana escapes. I mean, the good Diana escapes, sees this rapidly deteriorating world, and basically what happens is Superman almost snaps, almost goes down that direction, but Wonder Woman as she should, snaps him out of it. And that's kind of an interesting idea, because, and this kind of shows one of the extremely vulnerable narrative threads of this crappy ass story, is that if any of these characters had acted consistently and been there for Clark, particularly Batman and or Wonder Woman. Well, Wonder Woman was there for him, but if she had not been trying to seduce him and had actually been trying to be a friend for him, he would not have turned into a dictator. That's the problem with Injustice. There are so many tiny plot holes that if you like try and explain them, the entire narrative of the story falls apart like a Jenga tower. It's kind of what it is. That's how narratively like weak this story is.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, for the video game, I mean, what it is Mortal Kombat, but Mortal Kombat makes sense. However, even with Mortal Kombat, there's a problem with them and their female characters, and that's been voiced a lot within the Mortal Kombat community and whatnot. Even the main character, or one of them, the Queen, Sindel, she was brainwashed at first, and that's been her story since the creation of Mortal Kombat. But this recent, I guess, retcon or rewrite or whatever, she is the one manipulating everything, and she is the big bad. She is the one who has the actual villain. He's the one that's being manipulated by her, which is kind of, that's pretty much what they think of women are the manipulators of men, needs to be, this sympathetic type thing. No. So within this Injustice story, even though we're rewriting it to, in a sense, fix Diana, that's not who she is, of course, that is never who Diana would be. There's no way you can write Diana as someone manipulative, and, just an evil harpy, basically. And even with the Steve plot, they was riding the coattail of the Wonder Woman 17 movie, trying to have her in I guess World War II.
It's World War II in these comics, but it's World War One in the movie.
Okay, so tried to have her there, but even that doesn't make sense because she was in the JSA, and the JSA is like not even mentioning her origin. So yeah, that again, like you said, it's like you can just take one thread out and it all falls apart. But yeah, so with that and just her whole thing of, if she was with Steve and she knew how much that hurt her, of him betraying her and everything like that, that doesn't make sense for her to turn into trying to be, like that with anyone else. So we are redeeming Diana, but at the same time, Clark is very much going to, like you said, he isn't going to kill anyone else besides the Joker, but just that the fact that he lost himself, still just spiraled, will have that guilt played up, and to show, no, you don't do this.
So there's another Diana moment that I know it's going to get on your nerves from this storyline, Brit. So are you familiar with the basic plot of Year 4 of Injustice, right? Are you?
No.
All right, Year 4 is when the gods show up, like the Greek gods. So they have this thing. So Zeus and Superman come to a decision. So the gods say, okay, so Justice League, pick a champion. And actually, no, Batman shows up as well. And the idea is like Batman teams up with the gods to take down Clark. And the idea is that they're going to have a gladiatorial fight to the death. Each picks a champion. Superman volunteers because he's Superman. Batman picks Wonder Woman. She has to fight on their side. It's what they
Oh, so
do.
that's where that panel where Diana breaks his arm.
Yeah, that's where that comes from. It gets
Oh,
worse. So they flash back to when Diana and Cal are sparring and they're doing fencing. Diana has just joined the Justice League at this point. So she walks away so Bruce and Superman can talk. Bruce legit goes, "Watch her. She is dangerous. If any of them, if the she has the capability to kill all of us."
oh my God. That is so Tom Taylor.
And so hang on, I'll pull up the actual story. Hang on, because I have that trade because I've always liked the idea of like the gods going to war with the Justice League. But it was kind of funny having this show. In certain ways, it's made me dislike the stories I used to like a little bit because it's like once you figure out like the real reason behind this, you're like, oh, this sucks. So hang on. So I have the trades. So the gods show up. And all right, so I got this, and all right, where is this? Because there is a flashback, and it is one of those things where when I was reading it, I was like, did you really need to do that? The answer is yes, because he's Tom Taylor, but I'm like, what? Okay, here we go. I'm like, what the ever loving hell is this? All right, so here we go. So Diana and Cal are fencing on the watchtower, and so Diana leaves at one point, and Bruce goes, okay, so she leaves, and he goes, so Superman goes, are you trying to create conflict, Bruce? And then Bruce goes, no, I'm trying to make you understand that we have to be ready for anything. How well do you know Diana, or me for that matter? And then Superman says, I know enough. I trust her. You don't. You don't like to think about the worst case, Clark. And if that's my job, I'll take it. But here's the truth. If the unthinkable ever happens, the Justice League's only defense against Diana is you, Clark. She's our teammate. Bruce, our teammate and friend. So if it came down to it, you couldn't do it. She's skilled, a warrior born, and you'd pull your punches. You'd worry, Clark. You don't have the heart to beat Diana. She'd kill you.
Why does it sound like
By the
Bruce
way,
is the
wasn't
devil?
written by Tom Taylor. It was written by Brian Bocoletto.
Really?
Yeah, a few times they alternated Tom Taylor and Bocoletto. I know he wrote Volume 1 of Year 2, and then he and Taylor wrote Volume 2 of Year 4.
Okay, so unless he had like that idea that Brian might have gotten notes from Taylor, but that really does sound like something that Taylor would, write.
But isn't that egregious?
It is because, first of all, Bruce sounds like the devil on Clark's shoulder, more so.
And it kind of turns Diana into Homelander.
I mean, that's what DC does with her.
That's what Injustice is. I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, let's make the boys, but the Justice League.
Pretty much. I mean, and it's also, as I call it, Bizarro Kingdom Come, because Diana there was the voice of reason. And she, even though she lost her way, she still, tried to be the bigger person and try to help everyone else besides her, everything that she's lost. So this Diana here, it's kind of like everything that she has gone through. I mean, I don't know, we don't really have a background for her. And like I said, even with having the origin, it just seemed like something thrown together. And it boils down to her only caring for Steve, which again, it goes within the 2017 movie of, at first her motivation was to get off the island for Ares, and now it's just whether she remains a hero or falls, is all about Steve. And I really don't like that her stories from 2017 onward has been, geared towards that.
Exactly. So more positively, so Brit and I wanted to do something different. What if Clark and Diana were just regular people without powers? So this idea is from Clark's side. Clark is a war correspondent that comes back. He's a little shaken with what he's seen, because he's been like, imagine he's like a journalist attached to a unit in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he has to deal with that trauma. On Diana's side, her and her mother flee Greece, flee her father named Zas, or Zeus in this case. And they show up at Smallville because they figured go to a small town. We're able to hide in the middle of nowhere. Then they meet the Kents, and Diana meets Clark Kent, and she slowly brings him out of his shell and kind of is his shelter in the storm, if you will. And he essentially opens her up to like the world because Diana has been very sheltered in this universe, if you will.
Yeah, and it's just a really sweet story. Again, they don't have any powers, so we have to, of course, they do have some, familiar settings and backgrounds, but it's just them, of course, powerless. And this is a very sweet story, I think. It does feel like we're doing, sometimes I do criticize it, but like a Lifetime movie, one of those.
Only
But
well written.
yeah, it's not that soapy. Um, but yeah, it's something that's really sweet. Of course, it has its tragic, you know, you know, um, sad moments, but it is a story that fits with, the overall theme. And with Zaz, Zeus or Zaz, it's because Diana doesn't have her clay origin, we had to give her a father this time, and it is Zeus, or the gods, powerless as well. So yeah, that whole drama still with Zeus being basically a rolling stone everywhere and having his um millions of children, baby mamas and stuff like that. We still had to have a little bit of drama there. So that is why Hippolyta and Diana flees, um, for their own safety, because Zaz is a problem. Um, and with Clark being a war correspondent, it's not Tom King type,
Nope.
we're
No.
glorifying the war. It is Clark seeing that, and he wants to tell the truth of how war is should not be, and those horrors of seeing innocence, caught in the crossfire, and how he he wants to change the world too. Even, so they're still Superman and Wonder Woman even without the powers.
By so it's kind of cool. Speaking of that Lifetime thing, you know what someone did? Someone made an AI watch like every Lifetime movie and based on that make a Lifetime script. Like the idea was like this woman works for a snow globe refinery. A businessman shows up and wants to buy the refinery, and then she goes, "You can't buy this. It's all I have left from my husband. He died in every war." It's so good. I'll show you the video after we get done here. But Darius said, this is a good idea, especially to draw attention to Clark and Diana as human beings and how all the personalities fit together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Partly this is why we came up with this, is the idea that, like, even without their powers, they're still Superman and Wonder Woman, if you will.
Right.
And no, they're not going to get their powers at the end. This is not some trick. It's some trick. They are just regular people
Right.
in this universe.
Right.
There is no trick. And by QT says, I bet Superman could beat Zeus like he did Apollo. read Shelter, and you maybe will see that. I'm sorry. I love Superman being the ass of the gods. It's so good. Speaking of fighting, then we have Earth 5, Enemies to Lovers. So with this story, Diana receives a vision. The Amazons receive a vision of a certain being that will destroy the world, and it's like a dude that flies and has heat vision, all that stuff. So Diana goes on a mission to defeat this being, actually to kill him. But not everything is as it seems, and this is kind of again the whole thing about how Diana shows up. And her idea is she's going to get close to him and then deliver the killing blow, but she doesn't do it, obviously, because she sees how genuinely good this person is. And then she's like, she's like, there's something wrong with the vision. There was absolutely no way this person would ever destroy the world. And this kind of one of the things we like to do when we're writing these is challenge the Amazon's perception of men. That's why like Superman works great for Diana, because he is literally the complete opposite of everything the Amazons are taught about men, because he has all the powers in the world. Through all intents and purposes, he is the most powerful being on Earth, but he is also the most good.
Right. And it's never saying that the Amazons are wrong either. No. It's they are completely right. It's just the fact of showing them that, again, he is at least one rarity of what they thought men are and how it has changed. Or it's more to men on Earth that even, off-world, there can be male, a male alien or something like that, that is, better. And yeah, we're not taking digs on Earthmen. We're not. No. But it is to just show that complexity of perspective that, not everyone has to be grouped in together.
Exactly. And it's the idea that, like, yeah, both perspectives are valid. That's the first to echo what Brit said. It's just that I mean, partly the Amazons are wrong for assuming all men are that way, and that's what Clark kind of shows them. Is like, and we have Clark say, "What you think about men, you are completely justified." But I hope that I can be the example as to what men can be.
Yes.
And yes, by the way, Britt, I will accept a crying cat emoji for that statement.
What?
So then we get to this one's kind of a fun one. So for Earth 6, Britt and I are filling in something that was left unfilled in. So we are going to, so for Earth 6, called Tomorrow's Love. Yes, that is me. Thank you very much. It's, so for those that don't know, the Tomorrowverse was the Justice Society World War II movie is supposed to be a Wonder Woman movie, which makes sense considering how central Diana is. And it was going to be like a whole series of movies based around like Diana and Clark and the Justice Society going through like that time period. So we obviously did not get to see that because they pulled the plug, hence Crisis. So what Brit and I thought of, particularly after seeing Superman and Wonder Woman are together on that Earth, we're like, okay, you know what? Let's do that ourselves, because if DC won't do it, the fans will do it. So we're going to fill in all that time, and we're going to see Clark temporarily be with Lois because he references that in Crisis, and then we'll see Lois die, and then we'll all cheer, and then we'll see Lobo pee on Steve's grave, and then yeah, I really hate these people. So then we'll see them eventually get together, and then we'll get to Crisis. And I believe we decided we're not going to go with the Crisis ending. That's where we're going to change it a little bit.
It will be the ending that we saw. However, yeah, we will remix it a little bit.
Yeah, slightly. Look this way, tweaked. It's just going to be tweaked. The results of the story is going to be kind of tweaked. But it's the idea because, for one thing, the whole Superman Wonder Woman again in the animated universe came out of nowhere because Crisis Part 2 comes out. Taladia DMs me and goes, Jared, you need to watch Crisis Part 2. And I'm like, okay, why? He goes, it was Part 2 when they actually kissed, I think. Was it?
No, it was Part 1.
Okay, the point is he tells me to watch Crisis. So he says, Superman and Wonder Woman kiss. And I will never forget this. I DM Brit and tell her all this. And she goes, don't play with me. She sends me all the like crying emojis like, oh my gosh, is this true? And then literally all I get back is Superman and Wonder Woman kiss, all caps. And she sends me the screenshots and I'm like, oh my God. Because again, did not see this coming. And of course the fans threw a fit as they normally do because they're a cult. But when I see this, isn't it kind of funny, Britt, that both times DC did an animated movie universe that had Superman with Wonder Woman, except this is what Britt and I said in our Tomorrowverse episode. This one actually treated Diana with respect and not as a mouthpiece. And to be clear, they didn't treat Lois as a mouthpiece either. That's a cool thing. Everyone acted like themselves. Granted, Earth 1 Superman was like off-screen put with Lois. You know how I don't like off-screen. But the funny part came when DC marketed this movie. When they labeled him as Superboy. The one with Lois was labeled as Superboy. The funny part about that is they made it seem like Clark only becomes Superman when he dates Wonder Woman.
Right,
that's true, but that is whatever marketing intern was in charge of that was so good. And by the way, yeah, Cameron, the fans accused Clark of committing adultery, even though Lois was killed. And I think that was because of Immortal Beloved. See, all these storylines have lasting damage on the perceptions of these characters. It's hilarious.
Right. And okay, so with the timeline of Tomorrowverse, you have first Clark and Diana pretty much had their established relationship from the JSA movie, where you have Diana, she is the lead, and she inspires everyone, including Clark, because at first he was just a war correspondent there, and she called him Shakespeare, which is the only thing of Crisis, or, they should have had that reference before the ending, but of course we will rectify that. But yeah, they already had like this bond a little bit of like I said, her calling him Shakespeare. He acts like he doesn't like it, but he does, in that little bit. And then at the end where he was like, I needed to do more, instead of hiding, who I am. And that's always what Diana does for him, is she tells him, or she inspires him to be all of who you are, not just picking, Clark Kent because you want to hide and you want to fit in. You aren't supposed to fit in.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, Diana encourages Clark to come out as Superman, as in the case where she motivates him to put the suit on.
Right. And then we have War World, where she meets Superboy. And even though they don't have like I rewatched the movie to get like a different perspective on it, and realizing that when because that world's Bruce and Clark, they kind of started to remember the Earth that they came from. Diana, on the other hand, we really don't see that. She has like um little kind of like off moments, but then when she sees Superboy in the Superman suit, she's like, she remembers the S, and that is something that really is significant to her, and shows again that bond that they have. And when she calls him my Clark, it's kind of like, oh, we already pretty much had that um sort of an expectation that with her calling him my Clark, she wouldn't just say she would have said the Clark from my world or something like that. She wouldn't just say my Clark. So yeah, it was that
And when she
expectation of
puts the hand
something.
on the S, that was a trailer shot. And when I saw that, I told Brit, and I'm like, wait a minute here. She's
Right.
putting his hand on the chest. Then when she says "my Clark," that's where I was like, something's going on here, because there's no way they would actually just do that. I mean, they could have just done that as a tease, but I'm like, I want to say they wouldn't do that. Then the kiss happens, and I'm like, oh, thank Christ. But
Yeah.
it is really funny calling him Superboy, even though they keep calling him Superman. But I'm like, hey, maybe you should date an Amazon. That turns boys into men.
Yeah, and the fact that you know Earth One, Wonder Woman was mentioned in the Green Lantern movie, but she didn't exist, and the only reason why she didn't appear was because uh, Creed Craig he it felt like they wanted to have like a balance of Lois and Super Wonder, which is kind of like that's lame to me to you know because they still ended up raging anyway. Um, Also the fact
Yeah.
that they
Well, the
were
fans are always gonna rage.
right, but again, we're rectifying the fact of you mentioned in Earth One, Diana, she will be there. So, um, it just felt like a lot of things they wanted to do, and especially if they were to have had other JSA movies, we would have seen Clark and Diana, build up more. But just from what we had, though, they did have a solid relationship, and I would say it was better than um, DC AMU
Well, yeah, she wasn't
relationship.
turned into a
A
mouthpiece.
mouthpiece,
But wait, so
right?
Brit, what was it like hearing her say when she has to do the sacrifice? She goes, "This is not a job for Superman."
First of all, that is
I'm bringing that
Superman.
up because Brit sends me like a bunch of crying cat emojis, going, "I'm sobbing here."
First, that was just the whole speech and everything, and the scene of the crying and the caressing of the cheek. Yeah, that was just kind of like my. I was a mess. Um,
At first, she was critiquing it, and then I said, "Okay, wait a second. Think about it this way: the world comes first." And then when she said that, she's like, and then she sends me. So I rewatched it with that in mind, and then all I get back is a crying cat emoji.
yeah, because I had to have it in that perspective of how they are willing to sacrifice things as their relationship is. So yeah, with seeing that, and then again with Clark all teary eyed and stuff, and just being so gentle with her, it they really played that emotional scene up. So yeah, I um I think that is what prompted us to want to fill in the blanks
Hmm.
because even though we had these little teases and the kiss, and then, to show that even in actually, it was part two where Diana calls him my love. And it was kind of like, okay, so they are definitely like a married couple. So, but we want to see, how do they get to that point? And again, really show their friendship, really show them as leaders of the JSA, you know, just things like that. Um, and Earth One Superboy can remain Superboy, but still in some way have Earth One Diana, even if she isn't part of um the the Justice League yet, which I think Craig actually said that Superboy is only in year three. So, I mean, to already have Crisis while he's like in his third year of being Superboy is kind of, I don't know, that shows the Tomorrowverse had a it was much more than what they said it was. And Crisis was not supposed to happen this early on. But again, it is up to us as the fans to fill in the blanks.
Okay, and by the way, I got an idea.
Of course you did.
yeah, exactly. So, all right, so that's Tomorrowverse. Now, this next one royally pissed me off when I read. Okay, so we're talking about Flashpoint. All right, so those of you that watched the Flashpoint movie know that movie lies. All right. Okay. So, I read the Flashpoint omnibus, and one of the parts that particularly interested me was the Flashpoint Wonder Woman bits. And so I'm reading through them, and I'm looking at the Diana stuff, and the arcs and stuff, and what happens, and I'm like, wait a minute here. Nothing about this is like the movie. If anything, it's more consistent with Diana. Okay, so Brit, describe for the audience how the movie portrays Diana.
She's a murdering seductress.
Exactly. Now, the way the comic portrays her is she is someone that was manipulated by another, like, force. They don't, like, necessarily describe... but it's essentially Arthur's brother Orm and Penthesilea. Now, you know what's interesting about that name, Britt? Penthesilea was an Amazon from Greek myth who accidentally killed Hippolyta. She was the one that Achilles fought in the Trojan War. So that's actually really cool how you do that. But so my point with this is, like, I started to think, because this is where it started to become, we're just going to fix DC's mistakes. So the thing about this is that in the comic, Diana's also like when they come across an Amazonian prison camp that, like, has men there and stuff, she's like, I gave no orders of this. This is not what I wanted. And even, like, she releases the prisoners. And she doesn't just murder Mira. Mira's attacking her. Diana begs her, saying, I don't want to do this, Mira. You're my sister. I don't want to kill you. And then Mira basically doesn't relent, and then Wonder Woman has to kill her in self-defense. And then she wears the helmet as a reminder of what this war has cost them. That's the real story. So my idea was, and this came across after reading Flashpoint Beyond, when they really went into, like, oh, yes, Injustice in the Flashpoint movies, Injustice Wonder Woman. Well done, Randy. You're catching on. So my idea came across when I was reading Flashpoint Beyond, and we saw how Superman was essentially still Superman because he was still raised by, like, nice people and stuff. In fact, he and Lois technically grew up together because the general that was overseeing Project KR was General Sam Lane. And Sam Lane started to see Clark as more of a son and not, like, as an asset. That dope storyline. So my idea was, okay, so Diana's captured by Aquaman, obviously, in terms of Flashpoint Beyond. In Flashpoint Beyond, Superman saves her instead of Flashpoint Batman, and brings her to that fortress that Poison Ivy had made out of vines, and he basically tells her, sets her down and says, you have to stop this war. The entire world is going to get destroyed. And then Diana's basically like, I know that. That's what I'm trying to do. And Diana still feels guilty for a lot of the stuff that she at least happened under her watch. Because as a leader, what happens under her watch is still one of her, like, it's still a mistake on her part. Even the prison camps. And particularly the killing of Mira, because she killed a woman, and for an Amazon, that's like, no. And we start to see, like, that. And Diana's not Wonder Woman in this. She's not even known as Wonder Woman. That comes later. It's the idea of Diana slowly getting redemption through Clark, and Clark, like, helping her see herself as more of a woman because she had to bury so much of herself because of the war. So when Clark brings it out of her, obviously she falls in love with him. And then a crisis emerges when she has to, like, don the Wonder Woman costume and fight for her world. She does so, and then she actually submits to man's authority and stands trial for what she did. And then she's not let off the hook, but since she like helped, they basically tell her, okay, as long as you're under Superman's supervision, we'll let you go, and he has to. He's gonna be responsible for what you do. So it's essentially like Wonder Woman, like she's getting redemption and overcoming again trauma that she faced as like the queen during a war and stuff.
It's basically she's doing community service or on what is it, parole or something like that.
Essentially. And again, this is my biggest issue with Flashpoint, and actually this. You notice that whenever the movie portrays Diana in terms of like slightly edgy, they always go, "Oh, she's a murdering psychopath." I'm like, what?
Yeah, honestly, all animation of of modern times have done Diana really dirty.
Except for Tomorrowverse.
Except for Tomorrowverse and Justice League Action. Justice League Action was really, really fun. And but other than that, there hasn't been. I mean, DC AMU, it started off okay. I would say that Diana was, with the whole adapting Justice League Origins, New 52, Justice League Origins, they could have changed it to of her having the sword. I mean, I think they tried to play that for laughs, but the way it was executed just didn't hit too much. But other than that, she was mature, and her relationship with Clark was building. But that second half, it was really something that, and Tucker pretty much admitted it. It was like he wants the traditional relationships pretty much at any cost. He wants traditional stories and everything like that. So that 180 of the relationship, trying to you pretty much was trying to force post crisis within New 52 and having Clark and Diana together for a span of time, but then want to backtrack of it being like Action Comics 600. That doesn't work. And then also with Wonder Woman Bloodlines, you just threw something out there. They really didn't have any true motivation to do a Wonder Woman movie. Again, it has always been from 2017 was riding the coattail of the 2017 movie. So that's pretty much why Bloodlines exist. And it was honestly the beginning of 2017, or just the whole, tone of it. But you really have to have someone who's a fan of Wonder Woman for animation and comics and even live action with James Gunn. I have no idea what James Gunn's ideas are for Paradise Lost. It really doesn't make sense to be a prequel, if it's an already established universe. And he said he doesn't want origins and everything. And also, you naming it Paradise Lost, which
Is
goes
named
within.
after a story where there's like Diana plays a pretty important part in it.
Right. I mean, unless and that's pretty much slap dab in the middle too of her being Wonder Woman. I mean, it's just so they make her character more complicated than she is, and she really isn't complicated. She's complex but not complicated, and multifaceted. And that is also something that we are exploring within our stories, is that whether it's her relationship with Clark or just the individual character, they are multifaceted. And within these different Earths, we are having them placed in different emotional states, different, obviously, different settings, and different time periods of their relationship and how they grow, how we can break them a little bit and put them together, and just show that these stories, even if you want a controversial story, it doesn't have to be at the expense of the character to, in the long run, damage their image to the public. So with this story here, it's redeeming Diana, but also showing the ugliness of that, still that version or this Earth of Flashpoint.
Exactly. Next up, so apparently Brit and I are both big Witchblade fans, and then
Yes.
it turns out there was a JLA Witchblade crossover where Wonder Woman got the Witchblade. So we figured, oh, we're so taking this.
Right. And also it was inspired, of course, because I am a Beyonce fan. So
Oh,
it
oh, really?
is
I wouldn't have known that.
so we do have musically inspired. Um and just Diana's uh her attitude when she has the blade, and the way she, if you want if you want to play the like seductive type role for her, you still have to do it tastefully. And so that is what we will explore with this story. It's that, and it's also, Diana's very blunt and she's very outspoken. But again, with the Witchblade, it makes her even more outspoken and very much in. We're not turning her into like this anti-hero. She's still herself, but it's just she is more firm on, the corrupt, especially with going against the government and, bad guys and stuff like that. She won't kill, but she will, just feel like there is something that needs to be done, and especially for the protection of women and children.
Exactly. Because the way we're doing this is that the Witchblade amplifies like inner qualities within someone. By Randy says DC wouldn't like your ideas. There's too much work for those lazy bums. Yeah, exactly. Um, Barry Allen says it's annoying how every time Superman is evil, they put him with Diana. Like if he's with Lois, he can't be bad. Yeah, exactly. But didn't Cassie Sandsmark, Wonder Girl, have a Witchblade? Like, yeah, she did.
She did.
That was a weird time in a
Yeah.
weird book. Oh my god.
So going back to that comment about, yeah, that is pretty much the point. Clark and Diana being together means that their humanity is lost, and they are just gods, or trying to have like this secret mission of taking over the world at any moment.
And
But
I'm sorry, that's not who these kids. If you really think that Clark's is this close to becoming a villain, and if he's not with Lois, he just flips that switch, he shouldn't be Superman.
right, he was never a good person in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And they've emphasized so much on trying to make Lois relevant to the stories that, yeah, Clark's humanity rests solely on her. You have stories where he chooses Lois over thousands of people. But it's just something that isn't true, obviously, because in story we see it that, whether you refer back to Justice League 12 of Clark and Diana, stating, they're not gods. But they aren't mortal either. But I guess again, the complexity of that DC writers can't grasp. You also have, even within post crisis, our world's at war. When Lois was wanting Clark to just be Clark and not Superman to save the world, she also got mad at him because he went to save Diana instead of her father. You know, how selfish that was. So I mean, it's a lot of post-crisis stories where you see Lois actually pushes Clark to be very selfish, and she feels that where he feels like he basically the whole mental gymnastics of I'm not good enough or I'm not accepted if I'm not mentally um beating myself over the head of being human. And also the with Jurgens um his explanation for why John has the name he has is because Clark feels like he's human. So if he named him anything else, it wouldn't be human. You know, so it's really
That's oddly xenophobic.
it's very xenophobic, very um odd to continue on with this emphasis on humanity and humans when, I mean, right now within the real world, humans aren't acting human. You know, the way, or acting like they have humanity, because the way some people are with, you know, being so aggressively hateful, being so, you know, rude and not giving a helping hand to you are no better than anyone else, but it's like this human superiority complex. The Superman is inherently a power fantasy, so being with Lois, this ordinary plain Jane woman, American, emphasis on American woman, that plays into a power fantasy, and that is what, you know, these fans want to self-assert themselves in. So that is pretty much what we're battling against with Super Wonder, trying to show how they aren't so much as a power fantasy, not like that. They are still, they are actually far more grounded. Um, because you see now with Lois even having powers, how Superman is so happy with that, and he wants to do extraordinary things now that Lois has powers. He doesn't want to. With Diana, you saw them just wanting to go out, you know, dancing in London or club hopping. But with Lois, he wants to take her to the moon. He wants to take her to far off planets or whatever like that. They are within this storyline, like 90% of the time, they've been in the costumes, in the Superman and Superwoman costumes. So the balance of being a superhero and, you know, that ordinary life, whatever, yeah, that goes out the window when Lois has powers. But when you look at Power Couple, you see how sure they was in the costume, but you still had that moment of Clark and Diana reflecting and, you know, wanting those quiet moments together. So yeah, it's very contradictory, very a double standard for Chloe's fans.
So the next story that we have on Earth 9, okay, so this one's gonna be this one's kind of a fun one. So we wanted to do, what if Clark and Diana didn't know who they were? In other words, Superman and Wonder Woman know who they are, but Clark Kent and Diana Prince don't know that each other's a Superman and Wonder Woman. So it's the idea, and this is based off, I think, of like a Silver Age story
Right.
where where Diana gets on an online dating service and matches with Clark. So this is kind of what we're doing, where Donna basically tells Diana, "You have to get out more. You should like go out there, fall in love and stuff. You should see this thing. It's called online dating." So so obviously, Donna helps her set up a profile. She matches with Clark Kent, and then you do like a lot of they get to know each other outside of the costumes. At the same time, when there's Superman and Wonder Woman, they say, "Oh, I'm dating this great woman," or "I'm dating this great man," and stuff. And they Clark doesn't realize it, but he's becoming jealous of himself. Which, when you think about it, I would love that there's a scene where like Hal Jordan goes, "Dude, you're actually jealous of yourself, bro."
Yeah, this is, I mean, this is a another dig on the triangle of two, but it's really not because within this, and this is pretty much how DC um, has they've kind of tried to do this with the Justice League, that they know each other as their hero personas, but outside of that, it's kind of like they're really, really distant and barely know each other, barely interact. And I think that came from Future State. The only characters who actually had like a um, bond was Yara and John, for the planet's world finest type thing. So, you know, that is pretty much what we're playing on with that, is that Clark and Diana are still, um, they know each other as Superman and Wonder Woman, getting to know each other as Clark and Diana, but they are falling in love with that sort of, with those personas.
Exactly. And we could do the whole identity reveal thing and stuff. By the way, so Barry Allen says, I always say it, Clark and Diana work well just or just as well as Superman and Wonder Woman. So it's about power thing is nonsense. Yeah, exactly. That's why we have a few stories where like they fall in love outside of the costume, because it's more like, no, it's because of the genuinely good people they are. And by the way, so it's not about eugenics, which it's always funny whenever people say, I've seen Super Wonder fans tell me it's about eugenics. And I'm like, yeah, give me a citation or it didn't happen.
That is what's so funny about that is they talk about eugenics, but it's kind of like, okay, does that apply to all super couples? I mean, you have Aquaman and Mera, you have Sue and Reed, you have the Incredibles. That is a family oriented of superheroes. I mean, made a whole franchise of the Incredibles. So is that eugenics? You have, even with the X-Men, or you know just these, why is it solely emphasized on Clark and Diana? It's only because people are conditioned to think they can only be with human love interests, or they will, you know, go off the rails.
Exactly. And it goes into injustice and all that. Exactly. And then Cameron says, I mean, children of Superman and Wonder Woman are way better than the closest ones. Cough, John, cough. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Like this way, we remember like Hyperman more than we do John. So continuing on, this is the Last Earth. All right. So this one's actually, yeah, it is the Last Earth. So this one was a really good one. This is a story that I've always wanted to do, or always wanted to see DC do. Justice League versus the Greek gods. And this is the idea. So this is based off the genuine like assertion that I heard that comic books are basically the Greek mythology of the time. And I thought, okay, so the Justice League are like loved and adored by people throughout Earth, and the gods are just forgotten. So if the gods are like jealous, so they wage war against the Justice League. And what's interesting about this is a Wonder Woman story. It puts Diana in the center because she has to choose between her god family and her found family. And I think it's safe to say in this storyline, and Britt, tell me what you think of this, I think the Zeus origin is the most appropriate for this one.
Yeah, this is pretty much the only one that origin fits. And also you are able to beat up Apollo yet again.
Yes. Oh, I am so gonna exploit. If I were Superman, if I were the Superman writer, I would have random parts like Apollo shows up and then gets bodied by Superman. So, and to be clear, the idea is that Diana has to like reassemble the League because stuff happens, a la a certain nightmare scene from a movie, and they have to like fight against the gods. And here's the thing: Brit and I also left the door open for more Earths, so there's going to be a lot more stories coming out soon, even before the ones. It's just, if we brought up every single idea we had, this would be a 5-hour podcast.
Right.
I mean, we're already at 2 hours, so there you
right.
go.
Right. Which again, I mean, Jared just said that he has an idea. So that is what happens.
Ooh.
We talk about, the stories itself and then end up where, oh, here's another idea of another story. And even if it is an idea for a story, it's kind of like, wait, I thought about it. This actually works for a story of its own, or something that we've already established or something like that. And yeah, so it's just a multitude of things, but the consistency of it is, one or the other is going to be each other's shelter from whatever type of drama we implement on them.
Exactly. So speaking of trauma, Wonder Woman 17 preview came out. How about that transition, Britt? So, all right. So here's a really stupid thing. So they released the preview. Nothing's changed. Diana is still doing nothing. Sovereign has his henchwomen like Grail, the daughter of Darkseid, and Giganta makes sense, but Grail. All right. Oh, by the way, so Barry says, would be interesting for Zeus to say that it isn't worthy of praise or worthy of being like Diana. And Clark tells him he's right, responding with humility. Yep. That's kind of the way we do things. Also, and this is the dig against Sampere. Why does Donna's face look so dead? And then I asked that question on Twitter, and so many people says, oh, yeah, she found Roy's drug stash.
Yeah, honestly, I haven't.
And she swears again.
Yeah, I mean, that's Tom King for you. Honestly, Saint-Pierre's art it has its hit and misses. It's kind of like sometimes he can really have facial expressions, but then other times it's very stiff. And especially with Diana, she looks very um unexpressive, most of the time. And it's just some things that, I mean, honestly, the men, they look old and have like same face, but different hairstyles, but they, look the same. With Donna and Diana, I know they're supposed to be sisters, but at the same time, there's not truly a distinction with them. And he also has a little bit of the same face for women too. But yeah, Diana, I, I also don't like her body build because she looks like a very, like, I know he wanted to have her tall and muscular, but her head, like, is too small for her body.
Yeah, there are a few times where there's that one image when she shows up and she's like bending over the counter provocatively. And I'm like, first off, why is Diana being provocative? Second off, why is her head kind of small compared to her shoulders? So there's that. But it's like, even with this, she's like telling Trinity about where she met her father, and she's punching a wall. And my theory is that Diana. So this is part one of my theory for this. The whole story on Diana's side is she is actively trying to get Steve back. In other words, instead of finding the Sovereign, she is putting the man she loves above the world. Brit, if only there was a storyline where someone asked Diana if there was an agreement she had with Clark about the world coming first. And Diana says, the minute we question that, the relationship becomes meaningless. If only there was a comic book where a lame character asked that of Diana. If only. But then again, SuperWonder fans don't read comics, so that's impossible, right?
Right. Yes, it is. And the thing is, this is okay though, because it's romantic. It's showing Steve's importance and everything, but it is very much a contradiction to just the whole beginning of this story. It is Sovereign, telling the story, moving like molasses, basically. And it, I mean, I don't understand how Trinity um it's set in the future, and a possible future, first of all. But now Tom King, of course, he has forced it within continuity, I guess.
So you know what I
But
just noticed? This is another dig against this run.
mhm,
Okay, look at Diana. Look at Donna's costume. She has the stars one, right?
right.
Doesn't she have the armor one now?
Yeah, I think so. Wait,
What the hell?
wait, let me go to a preview of the Titans. I think that came out the other day and see. Let me see.
Yeah, because I literally just realized that because I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait a minute.
Mm,
I'm fairly certain she has the armor right now.
let's see the Titans preview. And that is when everything is slow. But either way, yes, Tom King is definitely in his own world with every character though.
That's the suspicious thing. How few books that should be referencing this are referencing it, i.e., zero, and how no one acts like in character. Now, I will say, Britt, your theory on this entire thing is very interesting. Would you like to outline it?
Okay. Well, actually, okay, so I just saw the the cover for Donna on the Titans, and she does have the Tom King design, but I don't know. It seems like, with designs it varies for these characters.
Yeah.
But onto my theory. Okay, so obviously we've established that
Okay,
Tom King.
she does. Sorry, not a dig against Tom King. My problem, my mistake. I forgot. Sorry, guys.
um okay, so my theory is that because the story is told from the future and everything is set in the past, first of all, that really does not make sense and just so I don't know, it's too much going on there. But it has to be some truth to that what Sovereign is saying, if this story is told in the past, to a Trinity in the future, then it took her 20 years to know who her father is. However, it's kind of like within the story of the past of how Tom King is trying to say that Diana was so in love with Steve, and how Diana is now talking to the Cabbage Patch Baby about Steve,
God damn it, the
and
Cabbage Patch Baby.
and saying how that line of her saying that even in death he was lovely. No, that is so cringe, and Diana would not say that. But just that whole thing of trying to make this about Steve. Obviously, there's truth to what Sovereign is saying, but at the same time, it's not. Because from Wonder Woman 800, he says that this is supposed to hurt Diana. Like telling Trinity about her origins is actually supposed to hurt her. So I'm kind of like, how is, Steve dying going to hurt her? And she also says that he's unmissed. So, whatever that has to do with whatever. Um, so yeah, that is something that really sticks out of how contradictory Tom King is being, and he's playing on the, oh, this is actually a red herring. I feel like from issue to issue, at some points, he's rewriting some things. I don't know. It just feels like that. Then
That could be what it is, and he's saying red herring because he doesn't want to admit I kind of screwed up and made a convoluted as hell story.
right. Um, I really don't. I really do think her origin, uh, with just with how um Sovereign is saying it, and again with Diana's talking and having Damien be a mouthpiece and just make it seem like this is a love story, and combining, trying to combine all this, it just seems like no, this is a lie, that maybe Emily is her mother and Sovereign doesn't know that, or something like that. It has to be some type of twist or something to make this make sense. um Also, King's Run is not an honor to Perez. I refuse to believe that. I feel
It's
like
an insult, if anything.
it's an insult because, first of all, he comes off as saying that he took this as a challenge. It's kind of like, where in your mind do you think that was a challenge? And the fact that he didn't want to write Wonder Woman in the first place, he was not interested.
He
But
still doesn't.
right, but he felt like, if I make her into, um, well, first he said that he only watched the 17 movie and 84.
And that's
And
an insult to Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman.
right. And the main, pretty much the main plot point he got from that was, oh, Diana is obsessed or she's sulking over Steve's death. So, that is, and he's also self-inserting himself into Steve because, of course, he feels very seen with the fact that Steve is in the military. And so, having Diana in love with him and King having this weird type of, he always says that whatever character, within a relationship he's writing, is that's him and his wife.
Which is concerning, considering the fact that Diana and her mother get punched in the face.
Right. So yeah, he is definitely, if he, were to have read or skimmed through the Perez run, there are some things that, of course, he did not like, and he's trying to quote unquote correct it, and try to again challenge Perez run and make it seem like he can do better, but obviously he's failing. So Steve being a love interest, we know that in Perez run he was more of a father figure, big brother. Um, then you have the Amazons. The Amazons was very prominent in Perez run, and now they've taken a back seat. You have Clark's involvement, which is fine, because he was an influence on Diana. Um, in the Perez run, he was an uh, an important character within that run, not only because of the potential romance, but because of building a friendship, you know, in within man's world. So that works. But the way Tom King writes it is, of course, is just that very surface level friendship. And it's not even a friendship, it's basically like an acquaintance. And that is only
Exactly.
because he doesn't want to um, go far as actually going within Clark and Diana's history of being more than friends, or even if they do have that uh, hinting, like he doesn't know how to do the ambiguity as Conrad did. Then,
Wait. Ambiguity. I assure you, Clark knows a thing or two about getting his hands dirty. That's not ambiguity, Brit.
I know. And then, in Perez Run, Diana was also beloved within the public. She was always celebrated and stuff, and she was within the the public and the community. And now, the world has turned their backs on her. Then, and also the gods were involved within Wonder Woman's, within Perez Run as well. And that was one thing that Tom King didn't want. I mean, the only god is Hippolyta, but even Hippolyta's involvement was lame because she wouldn't have had just that type of reaction. The Trinity, it really was not heartfelt. And anyone who actually knows Wonder Woman as a character, knows her relationship with Hippolyta and everything, that would have been far more emotional, especially with the fact that she used the clay origin. Yeah, that just
Yeah,
did not sit
and
well.
she wouldn't have punched her mom in the face. Yes, I'm not gonna let that go, nor should I.
Right.
So that's yes. Again, QT. I want this to be over, and that's the purpose of the hashtags that we started. Which, by the way, fantastic job getting those hashtags out there because literally everyone on that's a Wonder Woman fan on Twitter is doing them. So, I'm going to clarify a few things before I move on. How many more issues do I have to suffer from this? All right. So as far as Sovereign, it goes to issue 19. Beyond that, I don't know. I don't think it'll be that long. My estimation in terms of how many issues King writes before he leaves, 30 to 50. That's my estimation. Somewhere in there. No one thinks he's going to get to 100. So no matter what he thinks he could do, no. He'd even get that with Batman. So that's the first thing. The second thing is like with the declining sales and him keep pissing people off, I like to think that like it won't be that long. Hey, Cameron, it may be even shorter than that. My point is that's the window that realistically he could end up leaving. Again, he could do something that makes the sales like extremely crash, which let's be honest, it's Tom King. And the dude has more flops than a man with erectile dysfunction. I literally came up with that thing. I've been waiting for so many days to drop that.
Oh my!
You have no idea how many. As soon as I came up with that dig, you have no idea how many times I had to keep reminding myself of that so I didn't forget. I was waiting for this live show.
And you know what? Honestly, I feel like I'm rubbing off on you because the way you worded that is.
Honestly, so it was kind of funny. I went on some rants in our group chat, and then one night I was getting ready for bed, and I'm like, now I know how Brit feels. Because here's the thing. This run is completely stupid because, yes, you know what? I'm unleashing nuclear Jared right now. Because here's the problem with this. Okay, this man is the most selfish man I've ever met because he doesn't want to write the character. He makes it very clear he doesn't want to write the character. Hey, I want to say an insult, but I'm trying to censor myself. Hey, D-bag. If you don't want to write the book, there's this magical thing. It's very magical. Leave the book. It's very simple. Put it to someone that at least wants to write the book or will actually read it. Actually, Tom King, there's another thing I want to show you. This is the secret to actually writing good Wonder Woman books. I'm going to use this Wonder Woman Uncovered as an example. This is a crazy thing. This may not work. It's a crazy strategy, Brit. All right, so here's what we should do, Tom King. Take the comic book. Open the comic book. Okay, this is where we get really crazy. Read the comic book.
This is hilarious.
Now, when you're done, this is the really complicated part. Close the comic book. Put the comic book away. Go to your laptop. Write out an email that says I'm leaving Wonder Woman because I have no idea what I'm goddamn doing. Because at this point, I am pissed off because here's the thing. Tom King doesn't write characters like they are in the books. He claims he has this vast comic knowledge. He said so on my friend's show. This is when I was like, oh, shut up, bro. And he says he has all these trades and this vast knowledge from all his years of reading comics. Really? Well, where is it, douchebag? That's what I'm going to tell you. Where is it? Because guess what? If you read Wonder Woman, you should get some stuff. Or you don't even get stuff wrong accidentally. This is one of the runs. This will always go down Yes, this will be part of Tom King's legacy as the biggest insult to the Wonder Woman character I have literally ever seen. And this is including a universe. I think Amazon's attack is better than this. Yes,
Jeez.
I said it. I would rather read Amazon's attack than whatever the hell this man is writing with Wonder Woman. Because at least Diana acts moderately consistent with her character in that. And I'm sorry, if you're doing so much stuff off screen, guess what? That doesn't make you this philosophical writer. This makes you a lazy ass writer. And I'm sorry, this is what you are, King. You are the most lazy DC Comics writer I have ever seen. Because I got news for you. You're not good enough of a writer to be able to do this much stuff off screen and people to take it seriously. So this is what I would advise you to do. Leave the book, never come write Wonder Woman again, and take your stupid ass, girl boss, annoying ass, demon spawned Wonder Woman daughter with you.
Honestly,
there are so many people. So there was this meme that someone put out. It's a picture of one of those like baby doll things in the trash can, and then it says, "Hey, that do for Trinity."
Honestly, she's not even Diana's daughter, Wonder Woman's daughter, because again,
here's the thing, Brit. This is how I know DC has not committed to Trinity, and why she probably isn't wrong for this world. You notice how they gave her the most easy out? This would be harder for them to undo, and honestly, it would convince me more that they were meant to, that she's meant to stick around if she and Steve off screen, obviously because it's Tom King, had sex and she was pregnant with the kid. And before you say, "Oh my gosh, but she'd be pregnant and off doing stuff," it's not like Diana's doing a lot of stuff right now. She could just have it. All you would have to do is have the Wonder Girls and Detective Chimp. Hell, have Batmite show up for out of nowhere and fight the Sovereign, and then
you just gave him.
Yeah, watch. That'll be the next character.
Yeah.
I know, but watch. Batmite will show up. He'll fight Sovereign. He'll defeat Sovereign, who still, by the way, talked to a freaking journalist and said so. By the way, so I'm like, you are, and again, as we discovered last week, left his address in Steve Trevor's car. This man. I'm not talking about Tom King. I'm talking about the Sovereign, who's supposed to be like this big diabolical being in Wonder Woman's Joker, is a literal moron. I'm sorry. There's no way Grail would take the orders of someone that has the mental acuity of a child. So here, and this is again what this is the problem. King tries to be so philosophical. Like honestly, my friend asked him about in Heroes in Crisis when he had Hal Jordan say, "What even is willpower?" And King was trying to sound all philosophical. I don't think it really was that. I think King is trying to protect his ass because he knows more and more people in terms of comic book fans hate his work. So he's trying to be like, no, I'm trying to be philosophical. BS, dude. BS. Stop being revisionist and own up to your many failures.
Yeah, I mean, the premise of the Amazons versus America, that, as Jit said, it's been done over and over again. So it's kind of like it's not a new concept. However, within the climate of America, that would have worked. It would have been an impactful story, and especially with involving whether it is the entire Justice League or just Superman, especially with Superman. And yeah, being a reporter, that makes sense to have him involved. However, the execution of Tom King is so frustrating, so annoying, and does not make sense. And it makes Diana seem incompetent, and it makes her seem Like all of this whole awesomeness that, King was supposed to show, her fighting and um, you know, all of this like half-baked buildup for this, it really just it's a disappointment. Um, and again, he has this inflated ego that he feels like you said, anything that he writes is philosophical, but the characters are only just pieces for his plots. But the plots are it can be very offensive, you know, as well. Um, and then again with Trinity, this was supposed to be something, if you wanted to be defining for Diana, you still made it about Steve. I mean, uh the title of the issue, it wasn't about like the birth of Wonder Woman's daughter, or something like that. It literally asks, what is the point of Steve Trevor? And you are
And the
glorifying
answer is
him.
he has no point. Actually,
Right.
isn't that funny how the point, how that's the issue that deals with his death? It's almost like the point of Steve Trevor is for him to die. I agree.
Right. And what point you tried to make with him was that he is like the love of Diana's life, basically out, pulling that out your ass, basically. And then you have where, with Trinity and making up her name too just didn't make sense because no one knew about Steve's grandmother and no one cared. So making her having the name, and we don't have a buildup of Diana even wanting a child. Um so it's
And
only
watch, he'll
about
try and
Steve.
say, "Oh, the lasso of lies that she broke, implanted the desire so that the sovereign could pacify her." And I'm like, "Shut up."
Yeah.
Oh, so you're
Um
saying that having kids pacifies women? Oh boy, isn't that he really has to stop saying that, like, oh yeah, I base a lot of these characters on my wife and stuff and my kids, because it's starting to get a little insulting, particularly with the daughter punching the mother in the face.
yeah, or you have it where the for Steve and um like the hero dying, on duty or whatever. And you have Diana, which is the girlfriend or per, the personification of the girlfriend or wife with the kids, and she's sad and stuff like that. Or even the that is pregnant in a sense and has a baby and the father died, that type of thing. No, that does not work here because again, you did not build that up. It wasn't really emotional. You just had Diana um becoming a cheerleader for Steve, out of nowhere, just to emphasize him and have Trinity, which again, the Clay origin is about a mother struggling, missing her child, being reincarnated, being abused with and dying with her unborn child. And then to have basically that second life. So using the Clay origin to satisfy some type of like male type oriented fantasy that he has, no, that does not work.
I always say, Brit, beware of the men that claim to be that are openly claiming and talking about feminism. Because remember Joss Whedon, who wore a shirt that says, "This is what a feminist looks like."
Right, right.
I'm gonna say it. Tom King is the Joss Whedon of comics,
Honestly, I can see that.
except arguably he's kind of worse than Joss Whedon. That's what I'm gonna tell you there, right there.
But
Could be
yeah, and
because at least Joss Whedon has written some good things. Not anything relating to DC, obviously, but when it comes to Marvel, he's written some good stuff.
and you know, again with Trinity, her whole existence is Tom. He admitted, and he very egotistical, very confident to say that, oh, I just made her because I wanted Superman and Batman's sons to babysit someone's super baby.
Yeah, you notice nothing about what having a kid as a Diana. Now, granted, here's the thing. Internally, the reason for like, okay, Batman has a kid, Superman has a kid, so Wonder Woman should has a kid. Yeah, internally that's fine to have that as the real motivation. But outwardly, when you're marketing a character, particularly if you're going to try and keep this character around, don't make it so like you're basically confirming that Wonder Woman gets Batman and Superman sloppy seconds, which sloppy is the way Tom King writes. So I guess I shouldn't be like surprised by that. So speaking of Tom King, actually, this is actually really good. December sales came out, and Absolute's good. But Brit, when I read you said DC's all in is all out, I'm sorry. This is one of the many reasons why we work so well, because that humor is fantastic. And Wonder Woman barely in the top 50. Oh, that's going down real soon. I cannot wait to be able to say, oh, you're out of the top 50. If only there was already a Wonder Woman book in the top 5 that actually was good. Isn't it kind of funny how now the Wonder Woman fan base is like, oh, I love Absolute Wonder Woman acts like Wonder Woman. The Wonder Woman raised in hell who cut off her own arm to get Steve Trevor out of hell, which is in keeping with her character. I still maintain that. Acts more like Diana than the main book. That is freaking sad, Tom King.
Right. And you know, I mean, with this run, again, with Trinity and having what I meant to say earlier was with the Clay origin, it's still it's about a mother and a daughter. It is not about having a father. You know, all this whole time.
That's the whole symbol, right? It's the idea that she's like untouched by man, literally.
Right, but yet you have her with the father, and you know, it's just you took that away from Hippolyta, especially. First of all, you took the Clay origin away from Hippolyta, and then for him to also say in issue 14 that, or have Steve say that Diana was created for him. He wasn't, or she wasn't a miracle or whatever for Hippolyta, which again is very, very offensive because of what the Amazons and Hippolyta went through with the abuse and the slavery and everything like that. So why, and what Diana represents for her as a mother who lost her child in another life, and she was able to have her child back, or the fact of Diana representing this new beginning and this purity for the Amazons, you take away from men. So you take that away and emphasize it on Steve, who is a man. That really, like, do you not get what you've done to Wonder Woman and what she represented?
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Really... He doesn't, because remember, he thinks he's like the best writer ever. He may say he doesn't, but he treats himself like he does. And remember, we're dealing with someone who pretty obviously doesn't want to write Wonder Woman and doesn't care. Honestly, Brit, I said this to Robert recently. At this point, particularly when you have Trinity calling Diana a toxic parent, this is making me think that Tom King actually has contempt for Diana as a character.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, legit hatred. Like, almost the level that I have with Lois. By the way, Randy says, don't worry, Brit. Lois steals from Diana all the time, so theft is nothing new. Yeah. By the way, Randy says, if Steve wasn't already dead, I would use him as cannon fodder for Darkseid. And I would do it where, like, he trips and falls, and then Darkseid just steps on him. Like he trips on a rock, we give him the Nightwing death, except it doesn't work, and he's just laying there, and then Darkseid just stomps on him. Says he's like pathetic, and you thought you could walk amongst gods.
Yeah.
And then he hits him with the Omega Beams, which actually the Omega Beams wipe people from existence. So there you go, I'm done.
I mean, yeah, it really um like I said, is very offensive, and anyone who really takes that because they are, I mean, you're not a Steve fan, you're just self-inserting yourself into Steve. Um and again, Trinity has not had any interaction with Diana. Tom King in his Trinity miniseries, that doesn't seem like Diana will be there. He's only talked about the Super Sons being within it. Um, but, this is really just showing that it's basically like how so many of these fans complain about certain things. And with Diana having a child, but, at least when she has had a child, I would say that pre-crisis, Lita, I guess she was okay. I don't really know, but it seems like, she was very boring maybe, and really didn't have any significance for Diana. That's pretty much why she was so easily retconned to be, not her daughter anymore and everything like that. But most of the time when Diana is to have a child, it is with Clark. And the thing is, that child is Diana's child. Like, even if it is part of Clark, she's still very much emphasized. Um, in the raising, in even with having a son, there was a tweet from one of the Wonder Woman fans and was mocking about Diana having a son. And then basically was saying how no men are supposed to be involved in Wonder Woman's story. Well, it's kind of like, well, that's a contradiction because Steve is very much involved and he's involved in the clay origin of Trinity. So, you're not fighting against that. You're fighting against something that really didn't happen, but it's something else that you should be fighting against, which, you know, Tom King is implementing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
with Jonathan from the Kingdom Come Earth and his newest design, how we see Diana's influence, like right there, he pretty much only has the shield from Clark, but everything else is straight up Diana. And
Mhm.
even he has the lasso. I mean,
You
that
know it's
really,
bad when Mark Wade is better than Tom King at stuff.
right. So, even that is far more respectful for Diana, and probably would be a great story, especially with those two. But with the fact that, again, Tom King trying to have this weird self-made challenge and one-sided beef made up with Perez to, I guess, best him or feel like he can do better. Yeah, like I said, you're failing. And the charts are pretty much saying that as well, because you see that, yes, it's a good idea to have an alternate universe. DC sorely needs it. However, that does go back to New 52 because DC wasn't financially stable to have two universes, simultaneously running together, and we see that how Absolute Universe is getting so much attention that their main line is falling rapidly.
Which, you know what? Good. They deserve it. At least when there's a show DC, when you try something new or like go all in on a cool idea, look what happens.
I mean,
So yeah, go ahead.
New 52 did show that.
Hmm.
By all accounts, yes, the execution was rushed and everything, but again, refer back to DC's documentary and it explains it that they didn't
Exactly.
have a choice. They didn't have time to really just breathe, with New 52, but it still saved their asses basically. And
Exactly.
but with this, when people say, "Oh well, we wouldn't have complained about New 52 if they still had post-crisis. No, they didn't have a choice. You know, with this,
Even if they did, you would have still complained, people.
that too. And again, with the financial stability, again, they still don't have the financial stability, but because Absolute was such a, great start, that it did cushion um what the losses of the main line. So, but to see the main line tumble like this with All In basically a fail, and it really shows Williamson has been the architect and since Infinite Frontier, and every initiative so far has been very middling to a flop.
Exactly. So we'll see if it marks. But we're going to conclude with a more positive note because, like I said in the beginning, we're on episode 75 of this podcast. And it's really interesting to see how this show grew because, again, so the show started. So I reach out to Brit and we start talking. And immediately I could tell that she knows what she's talking about because you are a smart person, Brit. So
Thank you.
Eventually, so it was supposed to be she would come on for like an episode, an interview, and then we'd hang out. As we started talking, I was like, I had an idea. What if we just did a podcast just about Superman and Wonder Woman? Because here's what you guys have to understand to a degree what they tell you to do to like grow on YouTube. One of the advices is find like a niche, find something that no one else is really doing, and like go all in on that. And that's what happens with this. It's like there weren't any podcasts specifically focused on like Superman and certainly not on Wonder Woman. Like there's none that like focus on them together. Yes, their relationship, but also just them as individual characters. Because here's the thing I want to emphasize. When the show is called Super Wonder, but that's also a shorthand because what it is, it's a podcast dealing with Superman and Wonder Woman in the in-depth that they deserve, particularly Wonder Woman because she doesn't get anything, which is why I changed my Wednesday stuff to Wonder Woman Wednesday because she deserves to have her own stuff. By Randy asked question, if DC hired you guys to fix the current universe and start from scratch, I would say Flashpoint style reboot, wipe it all away.
Starting from scratch because the whole everything is canon or whatever, that does not work. And it's so everything is a contradiction. And with the origins, with the relationships or lack thereof, yeah, you don't have that type of investment, you don't have that feeling. A lot of these writers are just going based on expectations. And that's pretty much what the VO said was these writers are more comfortable with just the traditional, that what everyone supposedly knows, and that's it, that's all. But that creates stagnation, and then with just the everything all confusing, and there's no true established timeline of anything. No, you need a clean slate, regardless of anything. DC definitely needs a clean slate.
Well, it does have the added bonus that you can wipe away everything Tom King ever did. Yeah. And it occurred to me, you could wipe away Bendis as Superman.
I mean, you can wipe away the marriage just like New 52 did as well. Just everything.
True. Just you have to do this because enough damage has been done where I do think eventually they're going to do a reboot because if the sales keep getting this low for their mainline books, I'm sorry, at a certain point they got to say, okay, we got to reboot this. We got to reboot this and wipe it all away.
Right. Another thing I wanted to say was it's funny how Superman fans that are obviously very anti-Super Wonder they had this expectation with Lois having powers, And yeah, that how disappointed they are showing themselves to be, that it's not Superman and Wonder Woman. And obviously it was not going to be that. Also, Dan Mora's art is it's very pretty. However, you can tell that he is the like DC's all-star um artist, but it's very, I think because he's done so much and it's just stagnant like, or
Hmm.
it's everything is pretty much the same. It's not, he gets a lot of attention on the internet, of course, that's what happens. However, when it comes to supporting the books, I mean, for Justice League to for issue 2 to drop down to barely, or if at all, in the top 20 after just one issue says a lot. And then for Superman to drop to rank 55, when this is supposed to be Lois with powers and Dan Mora on art, that says a lot too. So yeah, it's a lot of um, showings and uh, that we've pretty much called from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't it great being right, Brit? Anyway, episode 75 of the show. So, Brit, I understand you have a speech now that you want to say, and then I'll go after it because what I like to do is that when Brit tries and get points, I like to come up, I like to sneak up and then go, mine.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so yeah, we go back to 2021, and months prior, I had lost my grandfather. So, and then we were at the height of COVID and everything. So it really was a tough time. Um, then you have fandoms and everything, and they are still very much toxic and negative. But, you know, at that time, I just felt like I wasn't enthusiastic. I wasn't motivated to continue on with the stories. And, I did finish a couple, maybe post here and there, but it just wasn't just a priority or anything like that. It just wasn't for me anymore. Then even with the Instagram, I kept that up, but it really just my enthusiasm for the fandom, it just kind of like fell flat. Um, but then yeah, I got the message from you, and
Which
when
is
you
right
were,
here, but by the way, I put on the screen.
yeah, and you were talking about special bonds and stuff, and it really gave, you was shading me a bit because you was like, so in the nicest way possible though, you was like, okay, so finish the story.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
because
like
I'm reading this and I'm like, it took you forever to upload. So I'm like, upload the damn story.
yeah. So so I was like, okay, I'm going to finish this, and it felt, the more we talked about it, it was kind of like, yeah, I've started to basically see the characters again, and see my own vision again for what I wanted that ending to be. Um, so I want to thank you for that, for shading me, for giving me that push to finish that story. Um, and then, yeah, it started out of wanting to wanting me to come on the show for an interview, and then to, I think it was also the debate too, like a
Yeah.
shipping debate, and give out the facts and stuff about it. But then, of course, Jared always expanding and thinking bigger. It was like, wait a minute, how about we go ahead and have a Super Wonder show? Like, just get it all out there. And it was like, yeah, it did take us a year or so because,
I
again,
know.
life and stuff, and um, just trying to get that the right date to in day and time really to get it going. So you know, from then on, you have been that support though, and that motivator to finish the story that I haven't yet, or have
Yeah,
just sitting.
there are a few I'm eagerly anticipating updates on, by the way.
See, the shadiness, the shadiness. Um, but you know, just that we're still dealing with the toxic and the negativity, and even more so for some reason. But at some points, I did want to shoot the deuces again to the fandom, like peace out. However, again, you pulled me back and was like, this is basically what this platform is for. It is for us to talk about what we love about these characters, about their relationship, and be as creative as possible, much more creative than DC. And also, my contribution to this fandom was just the stories and the Instagram. Um, and it was just only by words. So speaking it out now, yeah, I didn't think I would ever do that. No, there's no way that I would have. So again, a bigger idea, a bigger push from you, Jared. And then, just in general, how you're campaigning for Wonder Woman. They how the antis are like Super Wonder fans don't care for Wonder Woman, but yet a Super Wonder fan started this campaign, this movement for her to gain more respect, and now you have those same exact fans using the hashtags you started. And it,
Mm-hmm.
it, it really just, it's very poetic in a way, but just all in all, you say that we started this and everything, but it's really a celebration for you, Jared, because you're the one who started this channel. You're the one who pushed for the idea of a Super Wonder show, and you are the one that pushed me to finish the stories or and the idea of the Shelterverse. Everything that we're talking about, you are the the mastermind of it. And so I appreciate you. I know the fans appreciate you. But yeah, this is more so an appreciation and celebration of you.
But you know what's kind of funny? I just checked my Twitter DMs and here's Brit. Jared, what the WTF? I was just going to say all that and you were saying it, my twin.
You are. We are very much in sync too.
By the way,
With
check your Twitter DMs. So, by the way, Cameron says you gave a voice to Super Wonder fans.
yes,
Yeah, you guys are going to squeeze tears out of me at this rate. Oh, jeez. Keep
yes,
it together. Keep it
yes.
together. Honestly, the, the okay, keep it together, Jared. You got this. You got this, dude. You got this. It's I have never been more proud of the DC fandom than when I saw people come together for Wonder Woman for the hashtag. And these are people that I myself have my disagreements with on Twitter and stuff. It got to the point because I shared some of these shows with some Wonder Woman fans, Brit, and I said, I know you don't support Super Wonder, but you might enjoy the rant about Tom King and all that stuff, and you might enjoy us talk about why a Tom King run sucks. The response I kept getting back was, I don't support Super Wonder, but I support you.
And that is what it's about. Like we can have our we can agree to disagree respectfully, of course, but we still have a love for these characters, and you can celebrate them. You can have your own thoughts about them, as long as you don't try to implement your opinions on someone else's facts or just to say that they're wrong, unless you are going way off rails about the characters. But other than that, that is the platform, Jared, that you've built, is that everyone is welcome, no matter their feelings on certain things, is that if you love this character, you have a voice here. You know, if you love DC, if you love Marvel, or whatever you like, you know, you talk about a multitude of things, and that is what um, you know, just give this platform for, you know, people to have fun and talk about it, because that's what that is. This is entertainment. It's supposed to be fun. And, you know, all the negativity is so unnecessary. And that's the thing, that you know, create a space where it's nothing but let's just have fun.
Yeah, and that's always been my goal going through this. In fact, I brought Robert on as a co-host, and as you guys are well aware, and I very much agree. I mean, yes, agree on Super Wonder and stuff, but it's because if I have fun having a conversation with someone, yeah, of course I'm going to have you on. Fun fact that a lot of you guys may not know: uh, before Brit and I recorded episode 1 of the podcast, we had never actually spoken to each other. This was
Right.
all in DMs. So, of course, that was my concern was, are we going to have chemistry and stuff and all that? And then it was like a light switch hit.
Yeah, it was. Talking, it was like, oh, we pretty much now we think alike. we because
So
the
many of those ideas I just spent the last 2 hours and 45 minutes going through is literally me saying, how about this? And then Brit legit sending me a DM saying, I was literally about to DM you that.
yeah, a lot of scenes, detailed scenes that we have is kind of like just it's an ongoing of one mind, really. Just everything. But as I said, Jared, you are the one that's still, you know, this domino effect. You know, you tip it off, though. You know, and that is why I am proud of you and your success of your, you know, of your channel.
Yeah, and Brit, don't sell yourself short, because here's the thing. I got really into Super Wonder because of the Diana Cal Instagram page.
Oh,
That's really, that is like, I saw so much stuff about this. It made me think that like there are other people like me that like this stuff. So it would, because when you're getting into this, particularly when you're like a lower tier creator, it's like you tend to feel very isolated, and seeing a page like that really was like a lifeline, or like a light that was like, oh my gosh, there's other people like me with this. And here's the other thing about that. The reason why she's sending me crying cat emojis right now. The reason why I give you credit also with the hashtag campaign is because here's the thing. Yes, I'm successful on YouTube, but I'm still growing. I'm no Comic Historian or Comic Explain, and I'm just so trying to think about how to properly phrase this. Let me put it this way: I have an even smaller Twitter page, and what I thought was going to happen was I was just going to put these hashtags in there, send them out. And honestly, they would get like a retweet from friends and stuff, but not in any way what I got. And hold it together, Jared. It's the first time since I started all this that I saw at least a portion of the DC fandom as one. And honestly, that will always be the one thing I am the most proud of, is that for a brief moment, or like actually it's still going on, the Wonder Woman fandom actually has a voice, because this character deserves way better than what DC gives them. And
right.
honestly, Brit, credit to you. It's because of you, and I tweeted about this a while back, that I've always said that like my favorite superheroes were Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. Now it's Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman. because of this show and learning so much about Diana, because of you, Brit, Wonder Woman became my number one favorite superhero. Like,
Aw.
of all of them. And that's partly why I started the hashtags, and because of Wonder Woman Wednesdays, because of you, Brit, because because honestly, what this show showed me and what Twitter showed me, what all this has shown me is that when DC does not respect the character and refuses to, it's up to the fan base. Yes, we are both trying to hold it in. When DC is refusing to actually stand for these characters, it's the responsibility of the fans to take up the torch and say, okay, you know what? Enough. You're not going to fight for Diana. You're, by your own admission, the most iconic female superhero, bar none. Marvel has no Wonder Woman. If you're not going to do this, it's literally the Thanos meme. Fine, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do it myself. And even if like Comics League falls apart, let's say the worst happens, the number one thing I will always be proud of is that now the Wonder Woman fan base has a voice, and now they actually have something that they can say and say, you know what, we're done with this. This is over now. You're going to respect Diana, or we're not going to buy your stuff. That's it. We are done with this. And that's why, again, 2 weeks from now, we had to postpone it a week for day reasons. That's when the hashtag trending day is, because we're gonna the rules that we're gonna do with this is when Tom King posts to promote that the issue comes out, Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff, every social media platform he does it. Anyone you can do it, flood the comments with that hashtag. We are going to make it so he cannot escape, because here's the thing. If Tom King was pressured by Twitter to include the Wonder Girls, it's possible that he'll be pressured to leave the book. Because, and honestly, at that point, that's where we're at. I wasn't, honestly, what got me to the point, Brit, is when I saw Detective Chimp doing more in the Wonder Woman book than Wonder Woman. And I'm sorry, if you're coming in here to tell me that if your purpose of this run is to make people like Diana and understand how awesome she is, by his own freaking admission, she has to do stuff in her run. Stop bringing in D-list characters, or better yet, go write those characters, get off Wonder Woman, and never come back. Yes, Randy, DC does not deserve Superman and Wonder Woman, especially not Wonder Woman. And it is to the point that, let me put it this way, it is now my aspiration that one day to write Wonder Woman. That's it. Let's say I get to write for DC. They say, what characters do you write? Send us a list of 5 characters that you want to write. Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman. That's it. Give me the book. I will make her the A-list that she deserves. Not Tom King, who doesn't read Wonder Woman. They'll say, what separates you? I actually like the character and have read her books. Last time you did that, you had George Perez. I'm not trying to, I wouldn't be trying to surpass him, because I'll never be able to. I'm sorry. Anyone that says they're trying to like surpass George Perez, i.e. a certain writer that's currently destroying the book, I'm sorry. That is insulting. That is very insulting and weird. I'm just trying to at least tribute a character that has been trod upon by DC. That's it. That's the purpose of this. And that's the purpose of this channel, is to give especially Wonder Woman the respect that she has so long been denied. And honestly, the only thing I could ever hope for is that I could do this character justice, even by just talking about her.
Right. That is all essentially, this show is about too. Because you have Superman that, first of all, he's a male character. Even if he does, get put through the mud, it's still not. I mean, look at Injustice. You know, how they threw Diana under basically a steamroller in order for him to seem sympathetic. But you have, like you said, the most iconic uh, female superhero, and she does not get even an ounce of the respect she deserves. Her story is a lot of plots of what she represents have been lost. She is supposed to, we are supposed to see Wonder Woman, fighting for women and children, fighting for women who have been in abusive homes, children, you know, um, not getting the education they need. We are not so much as her being preachy, but it's just those everyday struggles that of women and children. Wonder Woman is the character that is to explore those type of situations. And yeah, you can have the Greek gods within it of their own tragic like stories, but in reality of the inspiration that she's supposed to be, it's yeah, she is supposed to be that uh innocent savior, like I said, for women, and to give ordinary women the empowerment that they need to stand up for the injustice and the inequality of the real world. So to do the opposite of that, and for that to be for so many decades, basically, yeah, it's very disappointing. And DC as a company, it's pretty much why they are struggling. Wonder Woman is just basically, she's a very important factor to their problems, but uh, just if we could help at least make that awareness of her character to be respected, then it probably will have like a domino effect of something of some sort.
Exactly. And before we conclude, there is one more thing that I really want to say and really emphasize on this again is that yeah, 4 years ago I was going to give up on YouTube. It wasn't growing. I was stuck at 32 subscribers for scale. I'm now at 1300. Thank you everyone, by the way. And it just wasn't seeming to be worth it because it's one of those things where you put so much effort into something and it's not growing. So I'm like, what's the point of continuing on? And then my conversations with you, Brit, just kept me going, kept me in the fandom, kept me just making videos. And I really can't emphasize this enough that not only did you save the channel, you changed my life.
Oh,
And
yeah,
and and that is really what I want to emphasize there.
yeah, the same. I mean, like I said, I I had chunking the deuces at this fandom because, good lord, the just that whole thing, was too much. Especially again with real world, uh, you're supposed to escape from that and not have it blurred. And a lot of people tend to blur reality with fiction. And at some points we do have to get away from that. And but to have someone who is twinning every day and really just again that positivity and seeing the positiveness of these characters and why again a reminder of why we love them so much, and that creativity that I love to do. I love to write. I love to create these you know um certain scenarios, these with the Instagram, the videos and everything like that for them. And it is fun to do. So to have a group of people who enjoy the same thing and we can talk, about it, and also just even if we do rant, a little bit about like how we rant about Tomasi's run, but at the same time we still can, with the support of the fandom and support of each other, we can make a way to make it better for ourselves, which is why we have the Shelterverse. And yeah, from 2021 to now, 75 shows in, it has been just, I'm very grateful for that. And very grateful for you, Jared, for pushing me to finish the story and to continue on with the writing of the stories and creating this world or this multiverse with you, being on the show with you, and just seeing your channel grow as it should, and seeing how you are being an influence on the fandom. I'm very proud of you, and just I'm I very much cherish our friendship.
Yeah, me too. And so, Brit, do you do you have any stories that you wanna promote for us?
All right. Well, shoot, we done promoted
We promote the
uh,
crap out of them, actually, when you think
everything,
about it.
but aside from the Shelterverse, I do have Twist of Fate, which is
Yes.
that, yeah, I do
Another
have
one
that
that took
chapter.
forever to get updated.
Yes, again, had to get that motivation back, but
Here's
that
that
is something.
dig. Here's that dig.
Yeah, that shade. But that is one of the stories that I will be updating soon. Chapter 3 of Shelter will be up within maybe this week. Hoping. Uh, and then I have one shots, just little minor things again that I have had sitting. So just a little touch ups, and those will be done as well. But the main stories that I want to get out are chapter 3 of Shelter and the Twist of Fate story. On the note of the Instagram, we have hit 68,000 followers.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, the 70K is for a ship that supposedly is not liked and everything under the sun. Yeah, that says a lot, and it's not, um we don't bash other ships like that in a sense of, just unprovoked. When we criticize the traditional relationships, it's something that we see actually within the comics that needs to be addressed. So, but other than that, we are basically minding our own business within the Super Wonder world and building a very positive uh, platform and fandom.
Exactly. And Brit, for your success. There you go.
Thank you.
So yeah, and so Randy says the funny part is even with powers, Lois still can't compete with Diana. When Charles Sewell did, yeah, exactly. There's a lot that can't compete with. So
Right.
before we wrap up, there's another thing that I want to say, and it's to all of you that have watched, subscribed, and everything. Just thank you, because we're at 1,300 subscribers, and again, it's to the point where people the very fact that I'm now a part of someone's day, that I have the ability and the capabilities to at least to bring you guys entertainment and positivity. It is the greatest honor of my life, and I will always be thankful for this channel, for this community, for Brit, for all my co-hosts, and really for all this. Stay heroic, everyone. So, Brit, you have anything you wanted to add?
I'm trying to hold it together. So
I know I'm making it really tough, but stay heroic, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane, and Steve Trevor, Steve Never. She belongs to General Zod. He belongs to 6 feet in the ground. Zois and Max about for life. We'll see you later. Bye bye.